Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 4,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 110 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is Scorpio Sky, and you are listening to the Keepin It Strong Style podcast, and it is the best.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here, joined by the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we will be discussing the Road to New Beginning shows and the New Beginning in Sapporo, as well as covering all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing to the Social Suplex Podcast Network on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns at socialsuplex.com. Go to socialsuplex.com/subscribe to sign up to get all the podcasts and columns delivered directly to your email inbox. This episode of Keeping It Strong Style is brought to you by Powerslam.tv. Powerslam.tv is an independent pro wrestling streaming service with over 4,000 hours of independent wrestling from companies across the world. Use the promo code SOCIALSUPLEX to get your month free of Powerslam.tv. Make sure you check out our pro wrestling tees, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. Get your Social Suplex shirts, Keeping It Strong Style, up now. One Nation Radio shirts, Ricky and Clive shirts coming soon later this week. So check out our pro wrestling tees, get one of those shirts. And before we jump into the show, got some Social Suplex housekeeping business to take care of. Just wanted to make this announcement official here on the air. As many of you guys know, the Outsider's Edge has been one of the long-standing shows here on the network. They are actually the second show to come on the network, joining One Nation Radio to make this thing a network. Originally as the SMC podcast. Well, this past weekend, the Outsider's Edge have requested their release and were granted their release from the Social Suplex Podcast Network. I want to wish
we didn't tack on a bunch of extra dates due to injury and due to not fulfilling their contract.
No, we didn't.
Oh my gosh, why would you do that?
We didn't try to keep them hoard talent.
We need to hoard them. No, yeah, that's in some ways I want to say it's, I don't know if unfortunate is the word, because this was basically a decision that Rance, Carl, and Kyle, if you guys listen, I don't know how many of you listen to our show, listen to their show. I don't know how much, we don't have the stats or the analysis to see the crossover, but, if any of you have listened to their show in the past, this wasn't like a decision where like we're not still friends with them or anything like that. Like, those guys have our support, but they have other opportunities on other networks that they would like to pursue. And so we wish them all the best in their future endeavors.
Yes. Definitely. All seriousness, I do wish those guys the best in their future endeavors. And, I don't know if they're going to be putting out a goodbye episode this week or not.
They should.
They should. I don't know if they're going to.
Tears will be shed.
But, I appreciate all what those guys have contributed over the network over the last couple of years. Like I mentioned, they were kind of one of the founding podcasts of this network.
I mean, strangely enough, it kind of happened like this. So before Social Suplex was kind of the big thing that it is now. I mean, it always existed. Jeremy ran Social Suplex. He had it was more of like
it was mainly a column site at
like
the time.
A column site, yeah. And I mean, we still keep up with columns, but I don't think that that's really our bread and butter anymore. It's mostly the audio. And you know, we plug it every week, the Wrestling Squared Circle. That was something that Rich and James and Ciara Reed, shout out to Ciara, they founded. I guess I kind of helped found that as well, even though I'm kind of just the talent. And through that, we met Caleb Baldwin, and Caleb, wanted to start his own podcast. And at the time, Rich and James had recently jumped from, Podomatic.
Yeah, they were kind of shopping around for a new podcast kind of hosting home. And then, Rich was already starting to write on Social Suplex, and I was doing a lot of work with Rich. And so, we just, it made a lot of sense to bring One Nation Radio, to feature that on the Social Suplex website. And so from there, we eventually landed on Podbean. And then when Caleb and Rance and Carl wanted to kind of start their own thing, I believe it was the Doc Chad Matthews that kind of connected the dots there.
No, it was me.
Oh, it was you? Oh.
It was me.
Okay.
I'm going to always take credit for this. So basically what happened was Caleb had told me he was going to start a podcast with his buddies, with Carl and Rance, and I was all supportive of that. And Rich and them had recently just joined Social Suplex, which at the time was kind of a precarious choice because they were doing very large numbers on Podomatic, but they needed to get off there for various reasons. And when they came to Social Suplex, it was like, from a friendship standpoint, it made sense, but from like a number standpoint, I mean, it was like a way smaller audience because we hadn't grown this thing yet.
Right.
So it was like jumping back at the ground floor. And I remember saying that we should have Caleb and them on the network. And I don't think at the time that we ever envisioned having a podcast network.
Well, I know there was at one point Rich was like, I kind of want to start a podcast network. And I know he kind of reached out. He was like asking, Sierra, me, if I wanted to do a show and possibly put it under One Nation Radio.
I know that part of the hesitation originally was that, like, we were friends with Caleb, but we weren't friends with him like we are now. Like, we never hung out with him. We didn't know him. And I told Rich, I was like, they're starting SMC, you should have them on the network. And he was like, I don't know about that. He was like, I'm worried that, like, it will maybe, like, draw away from our numbers or distract from what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build. And I was like, bro, it's going to be better. Trust me. You'll have different audiences. You guys were here first. Obviously, your numbers are really large. It's going to help expand everything. And then there'll probably be crossover for both shows. And he was like, I don't know. I was like, bro, trust me. I'm telling you, that's what will happen. And, Rich kind of linked up with you, and then you guys linked up with Caleb. And we wouldn't have the Social Suplex podcast network without Rance and Carl and Caleb and Kyle. So even though they're leaving us, like, those guys are Social Suplex through and through, everything that they've done, everything that they've contributed. We always say that this is an independent podcast network that we survive based off of word of mouth and based off of your support. That's why we're trying to get over putting out these gimmicks, putting out the shirts, putting out the free months with Power Slam TV, all that. But everything that's happening, Keepin It Strong Style, all the international shows that we have now, none of this would have happened without those guys. So even though they're going on to other things, like, I just want to, thank them for everything they've done. And if down the line there's room for us to work together again, that's always there. We will always be able to collaborate. You might even see some crossover. Those guys are going to be over on Chair Shot. Always use your head. I think we have different audiences, but you just never know. You might see a young boy running. You might see a Jeremy Donovan running. You just never know.
Yeah. So once again, Rance, Carl, Kyle, thank you guys so much for your contributions to the Social Suplex Podcast Network. And we're your brothers here. If you need anything from us, you can hit us up. But, just wanted to get that kind of out in the open, let everybody kind of in on what's going on with Social Suplex. But we have a lot of great things going on the network and a lot of great things going on right here at Keeping It Strong Style. So without further ado, let's jump into what we got this week. So this past week we had 3 Road to New Beginning shows that aired on New Japan World, and we also had 2 New Beginnings in Sapporo shows that aired on New Japan World this weekend. So for the Road to shows, we're not going to give you a match-by-match breakdown. We're going to give the results and then highlight any key things that we thought happened on those 3 shows. And then from there, we'll jump into a match-by-match kind of breakdown for the 2 New Beginning in Sapporo shows. And, of course, we'll be peppering in all your questions that you sent in on Reddit and Twitter and Facebook throughout the reviews. So we're going to start off the Road to New Beginning January 28th, 2019. We had Minobu Nakanishi and Ren Narita defeating the team of Yota Tsuji and Yuya Uemura. Nothing out of the ordinary there. We had Tenzan and Toa Hanare defeating Shota Umino and Ayato Yoshida. Toa Hanare got a win with the Toa bottom. Then we had Tamatonga, Tango Loa, Chase Owen, and Taiji Ishimori defeating the team of Togi Makabe, Tomioka Honma, Toru Yano, and Ryusuke Taguchi. Then we had the team of Kazuchika Okada, Yoshihashi, defeating the team of Bad Luck Fale and Yujiro Takahashi. Then we had Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kushida defeating the team of Jay White and Gedo. And then we had the big main event of this evening. It was the 5-on-5 Suzuki-gun versus LIJ elimination matchup with Suzuki-gun defeating Los Ingobernables de Japón. We had Sanada and Suzuki. They both eliminated each other over the top rope. Then we have Desperado. He got eliminated over the top rope. Shingo was eliminated over the top rope. Kanemaru was eliminated via the Bushi roll. Then Bushi eliminated Sabre with the STF. Then Evil and Sabre were eliminated over the top rope, which left us Naito and Taichi. And Taichi eliminated Naito over the top rope. And Young Boy, I know you love those elimination matches. What did you think about this one?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I think that the build-up that they put in place between Naito and Taichi was really, really, really done, really well done. Essentially, kind of putting Taichi in a spot where he always had the upper hand all throughout these Road to New Beginning tours, where he just consistently seemed to get the better of Naito, much to the LIJ fanboy chagrin. But I mean, it was always through nefarious means. It was always through underhanded tactics, and so it wasn't like you would ever see him being on the same level as Naito, but it went a long way to presenting him like he had an actual shot at possibly upsetting him and taking the title from him, which, that's something that a lot of other major wrestling companies don't do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a push and a mindset, a booking mentality where they want to keep their strong guys looking strong. And so they do that through having them look dominant all the time. Take a Brock Lesnar, for example, or something of that nature. And you could do something like that with Naito. Absolutely. I mean, I think the fans would probably, believe that. But then at that point, where's the draw for Naito and Taichi? And I think it's really smart what Gedo did here, where every single time you wanted to see Naito get his comeuppance, it just seemed to elude him. And, Suzuki-gun just continued to use these underhanded tactics, continued to just squeak by, jump zoning them, using all the tomfoolery and all the tricks, the smoke and mirrors that they could, to basically, by the time that they ended up in the main event, at New Beginning in Sapporo Night 2, you just want to see this guy get his comeuppance. Yeah. You just want to see him put this thing to bed, because it's like they've been this thorn in his side all year, and it's like never been as pronounced, I would say, as it was during this tour. Because I mean, Taichi smoked him out in every single match, basically.
Yeah, and I thought this did a great job, like you said, kind of putting Taichi on Naito's level, and also making Bushi and Shingo on kind of the same level as Kanemaru and Desperado, and having Evil and Sonata on the same level as Suzuki and Sabre. So really going into Sapporo, you really had no idea who was going to win those three big matches.
Mm-hmm.
So that takes us to the Road to New beginning on January 29th. This was Kushida's farewell show. We opened up the night with Ren Narita defeating Yuya Uemura. And the big news out of this match was Narita hit a belly-to-belly into a bridge for the pinfall. And that's a big deal because, Young Lions, they are restricted on what movesets they can do in their matches until the dojo trainers feel like they can go on to other things. So that's why usually these Young Lions matches end with Boston Crabs. But here, Narita busting out the belly-to-belly bridge as his finisher.
It's beautiful, too. It's a thing of beauty. I really dug this. They did this match again on the first night of New Beginning in Sapporo. I think that I liked this match better, though.
I think I like this one better, too.
It was a little shorter, a little more to the point.
Yeah, it was a quick little sprint. And obviously, I feel like the point of this match was to kind of get Narita over and to get over that new belly-to-belly suplex. We have a question here from Reddit user Jar of Peanuts. Now that Narita has been finishing matches with his bridging belly-to-belly suplex, I have a couple questions. How often do Young Lions get finishers? The only other one I remember having a finisher is Kitamura and his jackhammer. Do you guys think this means Narita might be getting fast-tracked like Kitamura did?
Well, I guess in some sense you could say he's being fast-tracked, and in another sense he's been there for, quite a while now, so I don't know how fast this fast-track has been, but in the sense of him and Umino being the two most senior Young Lions, I'm sure that they're in the midst of considering excursion. They gotta be.
Right, and we have seen other Young Lions in the past in similar positions have finishers. Kawato, months before his excursion, he was using that Trouble in Paradise.
Yeah, I didn't know what to call that. I was like, is that a Trouble in Paradise? I can't remember what he called it, but he had a finisher.
That
awesome.
Spinning wheel kick, I guess it's just easier. Trouble in Paradise, most people know what that looks like. And so he was using that to finish people off when he was fighting against other Young Lions. So kind of like in that kind of last stage before excursion, these Young Lions, they get their finishing maneuvers right before. It seems like a few months before they're ready to go. So it wouldn't surprise me if later this year, if Narita and Shota Umino do end up going on excursion.
Well, yeah, because what I meant by fast track, I wouldn't call it fast track in the sense of like Kitamura, because Kitamura,
he was there for a very short time,
and they were making him dominant. They were giving him singles matches, doing that challenge series. That was a little bit different. But as far as like fast tracking them for excursion, they've been there for quite a while. The company's behind them. I've been saying for a long time that I think from a technical and mechanical standpoint, I think Narita is the most accomplished Young Lion that they have to date, like right now. But they, Umino on these past couple matches, he's always been very fiery. He's always been technically good, but he's starting to tap into like the drama of a match.
Yeah.
And we might as well mention he also has been he's now using a fisherman suplex as well. So both of them kind of have been given a new little wrinkle to their game, if you would. But that being said, I gotta imagine that they're on their way, because if you think about it, we've got these Young Lions that are starting to come in from New Zealand. We've got the Young Lion USA dojos that are training with Shibata. And then they've got the whole crop of guys that are just underneath these two guys that are still in the, Tokyo dojo. So there's, whether people realize it or not, there's a lot of Young Lion talent underneath them that are ready to maybe make their debuts in New Japan proper and start working these opening matches, which means Narita and Umino, they gots to go. They got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And, Kawato, who knows, like Kawato and Oka. I don't know where they're at in their projections, if they've got plans for them, but they've been gone for quite a while. I know Kawato's been gone about a year. Oka's been gone about 4 or 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, you never know. They probably still have, maybe another year to year and a half, potentially, just depending what Gato's plans are. But yeah, I gotta imagine that's what this is a signaling of. Yeah,
so that was kind of cool seeing him get the hit.
Yeah, I love that. I like his that bridging belly to belly. I like it better than the fisherman suplex.
Yeah.
Man, it's
a nice little twist because people normally don't bridge off of belly to bellies. I mean, you see a Northern Lights off a bridge, but this is a little bit different.
Well, Yumura did a double arm suplex over the top that I thought was awesome as well.
Yeah.
But that's not a finish or anything. But yeah, Narita's pinning guys with this now. So I mean, yeah, there are other young lions, but that tells you something. So that's pretty cool.
So then we had Nakanishi and Tenzan defeating the team of Umino and Yoshida. We had Taiji Ishimori and Yujiro Takahashi defeating the team of Taguchi and Toa Hanare. Then we had Togi Makabe, Toru Yano, and Honma defeat the team of Tamatonga, Tangaloa, and Chase Owens. We had Switchblade, Jay White, and Bad Luck Fale defeating the team of Okada and Yoshihashi.
Geek.
Then we had Naito, Evil, Sonata, Bushi, and Shingo defeating Suzuki, Sabre, Taichi, Kanemaru, and Desperado in a big 10-man tag there. And then we had the IWGP Heavyweight Champion Hiroshi Tanahashi defeating Kushida in a non-title match in his farewell match, his last match in New Japan. Young boy, what were your thoughts on Kushida's final match?
I thought that this was a fitting send-off. I did see a lot of people online going kind of crazy over this and, really hyping this up. I don't know if it landed there for me. I wouldn't call this like a classic by any means. But with that being said, I thought that this was a fitting finale for Kushida. I know that we've talked about this match ourselves for, over a year now. The idea of having the heavyweight ace taking on the junior ace. These guys have a long history teaming together, mutual respect. Kushida kind of being like the protege to Tanahashi being like his mentor. So this was the perfect guy to send him off. And I thought that this match was your classic New Japan strong style match. And I don't mean strong style in the sense of like, a violent slugfest. But what I mean is like this was worked very much in that New Japan 90s Choshu, Muto sort of style.
It was a very heavy grapple based match.
Yeah.
A lot of grappling, a lot of submissions.
I'm a big fan of that, and I think that fits the story, especially with Tanahashi being a bigger guy, kind of like leveling the playing field. And I think a lot of the story was just that Tanahashi was too big, too strong for a highly skilled, but, it's like in boxing, they always talk about, a good big man will usually beat a great little man, but a great big man's always going to beat a great little man.
Yeah.
And I know that they don't stick to those types of, adherences in New Japan strictly, but that being said, Tanahashi is the ace right now. He's the guy, he's the champion. Like, there was no doubt that Kushida was ever going to beat him. There's a couple times where he put him, in trouble and made Kushida look good, but Tanahashi got him out of there with that clover leaf.
Yeah, tapped him out. Not even high five flow. Tapped that man out in the middle of the ring.
And you know what? It kind of makes sense. It reminds me in a lot of ways. Do you remember last year when Will Ospreay got his title or his opportunity at the anniversary show
against Okada? Yeah,
against Okada. And one of the things that was interesting was like they didn't trade a lot of pinfalls. It wasn't like Ospreay was, putting Okada at the brink. It was a good match, but then Okada just got him in the Rainmaker, and that was it. Kind of reminds me in a way also of like the Liger, when Liger tried to come up and take on Hashimoto. Very similar story. So this is kind of in line with those sorts of matchups. And yeah, there was no point where Kushida was, putting Tanahashi in severe danger. They weren't trading, pinfalls and all that. It was just a very good technical, emotional wrestling match, and then Tanahashi got him out of there. And as right he should, because he's the bigger man, he's the star of the company.
He's the ace. He's the world champion.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, there were like a few near falls. Kushida hit that the Back to the Future at one point, and the crowd popped for it and kind of bought in the near fall. But yeah, I mean overall, good match. I mean, I would recommend watching it, checking out Kushida's last match.
I think that's the one of all the Road to New Beginnings matches. That's the one that I would recommend highest.
Yeah,
very good. I don't know. I went like 4.25 on this one.
I think it's a flat 4 from me on this one.
Okay, but I think the real story comes at the end of the match.
Yeah, post match, kind of have this emotional moment. Kushida kind of saying goodbye to New Japan and kind of thanking Tanahashi. And then out of nowhere, Switchblade Jay White comes out and attacks the knee of Tanahashi.
Yeah, I loved this. And that's actually, we'll talk about that, but that's been the story of the entire tour, is Jay White using underhanded tactics to attack the wheels, if you would, of Tanahashi. And this kind of like reminds me in a way of what you used to see with ECW, or WWE at one point was really good about this. Like, someone's leaving, and so when a person leaves, you use that moment to introduce a new story, a new character, or a new angle to get heat on that. And I think that was very, very, very smart here, because obviously they could have gone the big send-off route. They could have rained confetti and, given him flowers and thanked him and all that. But instead, they decided to get heat, a Memphis-style angle heat. And we all know how much Gato loves Memphis and that sort of thing. And Paul Heyman himself comes from Memphis. So a lot of booking similarities. I don't know, just to I know that New Japan's not ECW per se, but a lot of the same, philosophies. And it was so smart to have this vile, dastardly, evil scumbag come into the ring and not only rain on Kushida's parade, but also use it as an opportunity to take a cheap shot at Tanahashi and get massive heat on him.
Yeah, dude, the crowds were just raining boos on this man. I mean, ruining Kushida's moment, taking out Tanahashi's knee, Pillmanizing his right leg with another chair, and kind of posing with the IWGP title, making a big statement.
They did it the right way, too, because it wasn't like he just came in as soon as the match was over. They still gave Tanahashi and Kushida their moment to hug, but then out of nowhere, the shock. I loved the delivery of this angle, the way it was done. And then even after everything was over, you still got to see Kushida and Tanahashi help each other and get out of there.
Yeah.
And so it was done the right way. It kind of reminds me of like when Tommy Dreamer had defeated Raven for the first time, and then suddenly Jerry Lawler shows up, starts caning the crap out of him.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no room for jubilation in wrestling. There's no room for I mean, I guess that has its place, it's called Wrestle Kingdom, but like on a Road to show, they don't need to do that. Like,
right.
We look to the future, look to what's coming up. And I know sometimes it sounds like I'm a shill for Jay White on this show, and I can assure you I'm not. But with that being said, this was the perfect way to build to that match, and that's what they need to be thinking about,
Yeah. I think people might start calling me a Jay White shill. I wrote a column on Social Suplex last week called "Is Jay White Overrated?" And essentially, the whole point of my column was kind of proving that Jay White is not overrated. So go ahead and check that out, give it a read, and let me know what you think.
I gave it a read. I gave it a little taste.
Yeah, give it a little taste, and see what you think about that. We also have a couple questions here about Kushida. First one comes from Dom Homie 101. With Kushida run with NJPW being over, where does he rank among the great juniors from the past? What will his legacy be?
Ooh, that is a really tough question. Because obviously New Japan is a company that is known for putting juniors on the map.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the underrated period of the 80s, Fujinami setting things off, and Tiger Mask and Dynamite, and then later on when the shoot style came in, Takada and Hase and Owen Hart, obviously Liger. But I don't think for New Japan really where their hottest period when it comes to the juniors, it was probably the 90s, and you look at any of those 90s tournaments that they used to have. I mean, you would look at like the guys around there: Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Jushin Thunder Liger, Shinjiro Otani. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. You could do this all day. Great Sasuke, El Samurai, Naoki Sano. I mean, there's a million of them. And then it does seem like with the Dark Ages, when things went more to a shoot style, I mean, if you're a Kendo Kashin fan, have at it. If you love that stuff, I get it. But I do feel like where Kushida's legacy lies, and maybe I'm off base here, but I feel like the same way that as Tanahashi rose and brought things back to prominence, you kind of get a similar, I don't want to say on the same level, but a similar vibe from Kushida's role and accomplishments within the junior division. And I think that the junior division over the past 7 or 8 years has been the strongest it had been since the 90s. I mean, you had guys like Kyle O'Reilly and
Bobby
Ricochet.
Fish.
Yeah, Bobby Fish. I mean, Prince Devitt.
Yeah.
Kota Ibushi, Will Ospreay,
Kenny Omega at one point.
Kenny Omega, Taguchi. I mean, look at the list of guys that they've had just over the past couple years. And Kushida, on any given night, could put on a 5-star match with just about any of those guys. So from an in-ring standpoint performer, I mean, I think that I don't know that he has the legacy of, or like I don't want to say he doesn't have respect, but I don't think he's held in bated breath the way that, say, a Liger
Right.
or a Tiger Mask is. But that's not to say that he shouldn't be heralded as one of the all-time great juniors, because I absolutely think that he should be.
Yeah, and I think you're totally on point with your Tanahashi comparison. I mean, for the last 8 years, this guy was pretty much the centerpiece of the junior division, whether it was singles or tags. He was tag teamed with Alex Shelley at one point.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you look back at some of the best matches over the last 8 years in the junior division, and a lot of those are going to have Kushida in them. This guy, I mean, he was a guy you counted on to have a big match. We saw this year or last year with Hiromu going out with the injury. Who was the guy they went to? Kushida.
Every time that they've had to go to the well and someone either moved up or someone got injured or someone got cut or jumped ship or whatever the case was, you always had the old reliable that was there, that was Kushida. And I think for some fans it got to the point where they were like, we need new stories. But I don't know if anyone could objectively say that they were ever not entertained by Kushida, because from an in-ring standpoint, he could have the match of the night pretty much any night that he wanted to. And this was a guy that was great in so many utility roles. He could go out there and have opening tag matches with the New Japan dads when necessary, and then when you wanted to heat him up, he's so good and believable that you could have him. I mean, just look at this past year. I mean, he started out at the beginning of the year pretty much doing nothing, and then by mid-year he's the junior champion again. I think the problem was they just ran out of things for him to do from a creative standpoint. Creative has nothing for you, pal.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's where that stands. I think, and I could be wrong here, but I believe the stat is that he has the second most junior title reigns behind Jushin Liger.
I believe that's correct, yep.
So, I mean, he has a legacy here, and I mean, that legacy is, built from a fandom. I don't know if he, again, like I said, I don't know if he's seen as like a Liger or a Tiger Mask, but I would put him like the tier just below that,
right,
and not much lower.
Yeah.
He's probably like B+, where some of those guys are like seen as A's sort of thing.
Right.
And some of that has to do with the fact that in the beginning, who did he have to go against? It was kind of that Tanahashi role. Tanahashi, like in the beginning of his career, who did he have to go against? He's out here wrestling like Giant Bernard, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what, and they built the junior division around Kushida.
Yeah.
So he helped them resurge this thing.
Yeah, so he's definitely going to be a guy that's missed.
How did you feel watching him, have his last match? Like, what was that like for you emotionally?
I really don't get too emotional when I watch wrestling, but
Wow.
I mean,
Stone Pitbull.
It was. I mean, it was kind of sad. I mean, this guy, as I've started watching New Japan, was that Wrestle Kingdom 9 was the US one.
Yeah.
Kushida's been there, and he's been a guy having great matches all the time, and so with his future kind of being uncertain, I mean, all signs are pointing to WWE, but at this point, we don't know if he's going to be NXT 205, NXT UK. We have no idea where he's going to be and how is he exactly going to be used. Is he going to be having the same caliber of matches that he had here. So it's almost like an end of an era for Kushida.
They need to go to the playbook, take everything they did with Kenta and then do the opposite of that with him.
Do you think Vince McMahon will know the difference between Kushida and Hideo, Tommy?
I don't even think he knows who Kenta even is, so probably not.
I thought we released you, pal. What are you doing back here?
I think that this was an interesting moment. There was a lot of fanfare, a lot of people, sad to see him go. And I think for a lot of like newer fans, I mean, this was their first real big stalwart that they saw leave in this way. A lot of the fans that are watching now weren't watching when AJ left and when Nakamura left and when all that, or when Prince Devitt left, that they didn't see that stuff happen. So this is their first real like emotional like goodbye to a longtime fan favorite. And we might even be having we just had a bunch of other guys probably gone. I mean, it's still up in the air, but this is confirmed and the big send off and everything. And I think they did it the right way. I was sad to realize that this is the end of an era for Kushida, and fingers crossed for what his future holds for him. I have no actual I don't have any actual I'm not anticipating what's next, but hypothetically, I mean, they could do good things with him in NXT.
Yeah, I mean, potential. NXT. I mean, that's where I would like to see him. I mean, there's a potential for him to have a ton of great matches there. I mean, guys he's already wrestled like Ricochet, he can have great matches with. There's a whole bunch of guys down there. They have so much talent in NXT right now, dude. I would love to see like a grapple match with him and Riddle. I mean, there's so much.
Him and Riddle would be awesome.
Yeah, there's so much great stuff they could do with Kushida in NXT.
I mean, my favorite opponent of his is Kyle O'Reilly by far. So those matches just always blow me. Well, Will Ospreay's up there, but those always blow me away. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure at some point we'll get a WWE gentrified version of what we've gotten from them in the past, and even that's going to be close to 4 stars. So I mean, either way, yeah. So goodbye, Kushida. You will be missed.
And one more kind of Kushida question here from Muzza_44. He said, with Kushida now gone and many juniors either injured or going heavyweight, could we finally see Despy win the junior heavyweight title?
Yeah, I actually think that is absolutely a possibility. They gave him a very strong push last year during Best of the Super Juniors. I think both you and I, we had, the year prior to that, we had mentioned how he had been impressive. We even had him on our list of most improved for the year, but then this past year was like a breakout year for him. I mean, if we almost had him listed as, junior of the year nominee, the only reason we kind of held off was we didn't feel like he had the body of work to support it. But that being said, I mean, the guy has shown that when called upon and necessary, he can go. Mm-hmm. The fans are behind him, and there's a lot of intrigue about his mask and what that might entail for the future.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen the mask kind of come into play in the past with him and Dragon Lee, and all throughout this tour we had him and Bushi.
Him and Hiromu.
Him and Hiromu. And then this tour, him and Bushi were stealing each other's masks and ripping them off. So, I mean, potentially there could be a mask versus mask or mask versus hair match some point down the line with somebody.
They teased it for a while with him and Dragon Lee. Mm-hmm. They both were talking about wanting it. They even brought it up again during the Fantasticmania tour, even though he was wrestling as Namahage.
Yeah.
And but now it seems like they might be going towards a Bushi versus Desperado mask versus mask match. And it's been a long time since we got one of those in New Japan. Obviously, the mask doesn't mean the same thing that it does in Mexico, but for those two guys, I mean, their whole identity's tied up in it. I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to... here's the thing. I don't know if you guys ever seen Desperado without his mask on. The dude's like a stud. And this isn't really the New Japan podcast where we talk about guys being hunky and studly and stuff like that. Like, that's not really our bag. But I'm telling you, like, this guy is very, very good looking. He's like, like a young Minoru Suzuki, basically, or like a Shibata. He's a good looking dude. And it is funny to think that they've got him under this, devilish mask. That obviously, if any of you remember his Young Lion days, you know what I'm talking about. I wouldn't be surprised if they went that route and took the mask from him, because he's a very expressive performer. I was surprised that he kept the gimmick when he came back to New Japan in the first place. And it seems like they could hypothetically, if done correctly, they could utilize an unmasking to catapult in the way that, like, say, a Juventud Guerrera or like a Rey Mysterio did back in the day.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be too surprised. But yeah, Desperado's a guy. You look at the current crop of juniors who have never held the junior title, and I mean, aside from Shingo, who that's a given. You got to put Desperado up there as a guy that you could totally. Now, I don't know if he'd have a dominant reign. I think, if anything, I mean, at least for right now, I would see it as maybe being similar to like a Bushi transitional sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But if maybe they could go with him.
I mean, if they do what they did with him with the junior tag titles and just have him like cheat all the way through, I mean, he could have a very long reign.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, this would seem like the perfect environment to do something like that, given the lack of guys that are there now. Like, the division's been decimated over the course of like a month with guys jumping, guys going up, guys getting injured, and so it's like the opportunity is there. So yeah, absolutely, I think that's a possibility.
And speaking of a lack of juniors, we got a question here from A Blue 3. He says, with the juniors not having many people in the division, do you think Young Lions could be in the tournament this year, like 1A block with Umura and Narita maybe?
Yeah, I mean, they've done that before.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, depending on kind of who they get to fill out the tournament, definitely they could put in Umura and Narita in the tournament, and I think those guys would be great additions in the tournament, and that would be great experience for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing with it is you can easily book your brackets a little easier, and you can tell what's going to happen with that sort of thing. The only thing that would be really a surprise is if either of them picked up any points during the tournament. That would be like a huge deal. But, you put a young lion in these tournaments, and unless they're really strong performers that you're excited to see, it's not really all that exciting because you know exactly how it's going to turn out. I mean, even seeing like the young lions in the World Tag League this past year, they had a lot of good little matches, but I mean, nothing that...
At the end of the day, you know they were taking the L.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3-star special all day. So, but yeah, I mean, they could go that way. The main thing, though, is they need something very, very, very strong because they're doing the finals at Sumo Hall?
Yes.
So they're going to have a strong finals somewhere down the line regardless.
Yeah. So we'll see what Gato and Harold have in the books for the junior division this year. But next we have our last Road to New Beginning show, which happened on January 30th. Things opened up with Shota Umino and Ayato Yoshida defeating the team of Toa Hanare and Yota Tsuji, where Umino busted out his fisherman suplex. Big surprise, with Toa Hanare on the team. You would expect that Toa's team would be the team that gets the win.
I know, I did.
So did I. I mean, I think when we talked about it last week, we were like, Toa's getting the win here, Toa bottom. But no, Umino busted out that fisherman suplex on Tsuji and got the big win for the team here. The first win for Umino and Yoshida as a team here since they've been teaming together.
Really? That's crazy.
Then we had Nakanishi and Tiger Mask defeating the team of Tenzan and Ren Narita. Tiger Mask with the Tiger Driver on Narita. Then we had Shingo Takagi. He defeated Kanemaru by disqualification. Desperado ran in, attacked Shingo as he was going for the Last of the Dragon. Then Bushi ran in, took out both Kanemaru and Desperado with a double Hurricane Rana, which took us right into the next match, which was Bushi one-on-one with El Desperado, with that match ending in disqualification because Desperado ripped Bushi's mask off.
I like that idea, but they did this the last time that they did singles matches between the junior tags of LIJ and Suzuki-gun. They did
the exact same thing. Yeah,
and it's like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't remember that, but I remember it.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold up.
I know.
Is this the same crap that I saw?
Yeah, I mean, we've been watching every Road 2 show, and obviously we're taking notes and paying attention to details.
Well, some of us are.
As we were watching this thing. And... yeah, I mean, this was the exact same thing.
It's the same thing, yeah. And, I mean, both matches, I mean, they did a good job at, like, building heat for... but, it was in... it wasn't anything that was, like, conclusive or anything like that. But, yeah, I mean, I just thought that was funny. The next match was the 8-man tag team match, Chaos, Kazuchika Okada and Yoshihashi teaming up with Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Tomoaki Hanma defeating the Bullet Club, Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, Jay White, and Yujiro Takahashi. The one thing I do want to say is, throughout this whole tour, have you felt kind of like these matches have not really delivered at all?
Yeah, they've kind of been there.
For whatever reason, like this mix of whether it's a 6-man tag match or 8-man, this group of guys together just don't seem to click.
Yeah, and part of it too, I feel like, Tanahashi and Okada, they're just kind of going through the paces, they're not trying to, go all out and get hurt before their big matches coming up in Osaka. And then you got Hanma, who's, not been the same since he's returned from injury, and then you have Yoshihashi, who's Yoshihashi.
They got a lot of talent, though. I mean, just look at, Chase Owens, Yoshihashi can deliver, Yujiro can go when he wants to, but for whatever reason, it's not a talent issue. It's more just like the pacing or the
right.
They just don't seem the chemistry has been off for these matches. I don't know.
Yeah, and plus too, I think because we've been watching these Road 2 shows and watching all this stuff, it's like we've been seeing Bullet Club versus Chaos / Sekigun / Taguchi Japan
for GBH.
Yeah, for so long now. It's like almost like the same.
But I don't feel that way about LIJ and Suzuki-gun. And I felt like I would, and I probably should, but I've been thoroughly entertained. Even when none of their matches have been blow away either, but they've gelled, and it's been entertaining. Whereas these Chaos and Bullet Club matches, you can miss me with it. Basically, is how I feel.
And I guess another kind of big thing here was the fact that Tanahashi's team actually won here.
Yeah.
They've been getting, for the most part, dominated by Bullet Club, ever since, before Wrestle Kingdom. So this was kind of a big win to help Tanahashi get some momentum going into Sapporo. So then we had Taichi, Zack Sabre Jr., and Minoru Suzuki defeating Naito, Sonata, and Evil in a 6-man tag.
I liked this. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, this is a good matchup here. Once again, Sabre pinned Evil with the European clutch. So Evil once again failing to beat Sabre here. Then this brought us to our main event of the evening for the Never 6-man tag titles. The most violent perverts, Togi Makabe, Toru Yano, and Ryusuke Taguchi defeated the Bullet Club team of Tama Tonga Tangaloa and Taiji Ishimori when Taguchi submitted Ishimori with an ankle lock to get the win for his team here.
Yeah, so this Road to New Beginning main event was done really, really, really well, in my opinion. I think that because there was a lot of moving parts. You had Tanahashi getting involved, you had Jay White getting involved, and then you had all the heat that they had to build towards Taguchi and Ishimori, but also kind of parlaying that into the main event scene with Tanahashi and Jay White, and also the tag teams, because it does seem like they're building this tag team deal as well between it's kind of cool to see two non-title but main event level like tag teams kind of building up heat. So you kind of had that going with the most violent players, which I think going forward it seems like that's going to be the team. It seems like they're kind of cutting Ishii and Toru Yano apart for the most part, and it seems like they kind of got away from the GBH team of Hanma and Makabe. So it's we've always talked about how we're big fans of them pushing their heavyweights and really developing that heavyweight scene, and so you've got the most violent players and GOD kind of like going at it as well. So I thought that this match did an excellent job building to all three of those feuds simultaneously, and they did it the right way.
Yeah, and that was big for Taguchi to get the submission win on Ishimori. He really hasn't gotten any momentum at all in these multi-man matches against Bullet Club.
No.
And so they did a great job here. It makes Taguchi look like a credible challenger, a credible threat when he faces off against Ishimori in Osaka. The fact that if he slaps that ankle lock on, he can win the junior title. And Ishimori has had ankle issues in the past, so that kind of plays in that story there. So they did a great job here of making Taguchi look credible.
That was one of my gripes when they had originally done the Kushida and Ishimori match at Wrestle Kingdom. I was just so perturbed that Kushida never tried to attack the ankle, where I know that his tactic is usually to go after the arm to set up the hoverboard lock, but they did a whole story about this guy being on crutches and faking an injury, and is it really injured, is it not, and then it never really came into play throughout the match. That seemed to be the wrong way to go for me. If you're going to do an injury angle, you play it up in the match. That's the story of the match. They missed the boat on that, amongst other issues I had with that match at the time. This is exactly what I want to see out of Big Match Taguchi, which we only get every so often. It seems like they're going to start being further and further apart as time goes on. And with that being said, everyone kind of knows the deal. Like, nobody sees Taguchi being in Ishimori's league at this point. Like, I don't think anyone realistically thinks he's going to beat Ishimori, especially all the interactions that they had during the Fantasticmania tour, and then everything on the road to New Beginning. This has actually been one of the best built matches of the entire tour up to this point, because we've gotten 2 tours worth of backstory going into it, even though it's kind of underplayed. And so seeing him get the visual victory, taking gold off of him, and I think that was that the prediction that we both made?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, because I think my whole thinking was, we're going to watch him take gold off of Ishimori, and it's going to cause doubt and build momentum to whether or not he could actually win this junior title. And I think that they did a superb job doing that. Yeah.
And something else we got to talk about, during this match and all the other matches featuring God, we've seen good guy Tama Tonga stopping his partners from cheating, stopping Master Heater, what's his name? Jado from hitting people with the kendo stick. So, we got a question here from Reddit user Eater of Bread, and he says, "Where do you think this Tama Tonga going? Where do you think Tama Tonga is going with the good guy storyline?" Honestly, I have no clue what's happening with the good guy storyline. At first it kind of seemed like this is going to be a ploy that he pulls, and then obviously he's going to reveal that he's been a bad guy the whole time, and he was just trying to trick people in order to possibly maybe win a match or trick somebody. But this has been going on for a while now, and all throughout this tour, we see Tangaloa yelling at him, telling him to wrestle, to attack, to telling him that we're bad guys, and he refuses to cheat. He's being forced into double team moves. He's stopping Jado from hitting people with the kendo stick. He's trying to wrestle a clean match. He's on the outside. Why can't we wrestle? Why can't we win clean? And doing all this good guy stuff, and a lot of that's cost them a lot of matches on this tour thus far. But honestly, I have no idea where they're going with it.
Yeah, it's really an interesting thing, wouldn't you say? I don't know where they're going with this whole thing. On the one hand, it's like, I'm enjoying it. It's so entertaining.
It's hilarious.
It's one of my favorite things in New Japan right now, and I feel like it's one of those things that could be really diversive, or I don't know what the word is, but basically it's something that certain sect of fans might be totally turned off by, because this is not a A-level gimmick. It's not something that you would do with a main event level talent. I know Tama isn't necessarily seen as main event, but he's kind of seen as like the second in command, essentially, with Bullet Club.
Right.
And it's something, he's been in G1s and everything like that. So with that being said, this persona, there's no clear direction for where it's going. So many people are probably like already starting. I've seen a lot of people like being turned off by it or being confused by it. And I think part of the confusion is it's kind of like this. If you've ever taken like an improv comedy class, one of the basic tenets is that you always agree with one another. Someone could throw a scenario at you, and no matter how crazy or ridiculous it is, you just kind of go with it. Where the performance will suck is if one person goes against the grain and is non-agreeable because then it causes conflict and then the whole thing gets thrown off. I feel like that's where some of the awkwardness is that like Tama Tonga is doing this good guy stuff, and the rest of the Bullet Club is kind of like, in opposition to it, but they're not teasing dissension.
Right.
There's nothing that leads me as a viewer to believe that this is leading to a breakup or a split. There's also nothing that is leading me to believe that this is a long-term plan where they don't have an important enough feud where they can where he can turn on somebody or this can play into a championship win. So it just seems like it's goofy for the sake of being goofy, and there's nothing else behind it.
I feel like Tama Tonga's like, I want to do this storyline just because, and like,
yeah, he just wants. He's like, maybe it's like he doesn't like. They're like, you can't cuss anymore, you can't hump the belt anymore, you can't do all this crap. He's like, all right, I'm gonna be a good guy then. Hey, I'm the good guy, Tama Tonga,
yeah.
And like. I feel like it's just a bunch of guys who don't have any creative or any agents telling them what to do. They're like, well, just go out there and throw this crap together. And I don't think it's going to lead anywhere. I could, instead of it being this, we always talk about New Japan being so good at long-term storytelling, dropping little breadcrumbs, and maybe down the line they could hypothetically retcon this into something. But I really think it's going to be one of the things that we see sometimes where someone's doing something and then it just gets dropped. Like last year, Toriano during the G1, Fair Play. And then it just disappeared. It never came back up again. I really could see the Tama Tonga thing being just a phase and then going away.
Yeah.
Which you hate to see because I think that this is really entertaining. For me as a fan, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think it is freaking hilarious.
Yeah, it's very entertaining. It's like most people, I don't know where it's going.
Yeah, you want to know where this is going.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, like you mentioned with Tangaloa and all these other guys are cheating and being the normal Bullet Club that you would expect, and then Tama Tonga is like out here trying to get them to be baby faces.
I feel like my theory is correct, that like this is his response to Harold Mai and the new management. He's like, all right, y'all want me to do that stuff? I'm going to be a good guy. Yeah. I really feel like it's a rib at this point is what it feels like.
Yeah. It probably is.
It probably is. It's probably something that they just sit in the back and drink over and think is hilarious.
Reddit user Maserati has a question here. He says, is Bullet Club the most dangerous faction in NJPW right now? They seem to have the most members currently.
Well, I mean, most dangerous. What would you say to that?
I think, with Jay White kind of being the leader right now and just kind of the way he's kind of ruthlessly kind of attacking people. Yeah. His mindset and his takeover of Bullet Club. I guess you could see those guys as the most dangerous faction. They got Bad Luck Fale, and they've kind of reloaded with bringing back Chase and Yujiro, and they still have God. And they have Gato and Jado now. So, I mean, they can be a dangerous threat going against, some of these factions that maybe only have 5 or 6 people on their team. But that Jay White's really the only one that's kind of been booked dominantly. Maybe Jay White and Ishimori.
Yes, say Ishimori.
But you got God that's kind of in the same spot they've always kind of been in. Bad Luck Fale is kind of in the same spot he's always kind of been in. Same thing with Yujiro and Chase. It's like a stable full of like mid and low carders with like just Ishimori and Jay White kind of being the main eventers.
Yeah, I think everything rises and falls on Jay White. Mm-hmm. So if Jay White is able to pull off his master plan and take that top Gaijin spot, take that top heel spot, then yeah, they'll have that's them fulfilling the prophecy, I suppose. But even if they don't, you gotta imagine they are the top heel stable. I mean, that's the way I look at it. When you say most dangerous, I look at it as saying they're the most they're the top heel stable. Mm-hmm. You look at Suzuki-gun, which would be your next natural answer to that, and I mean, they've got very popular talent. They're very cohesive, but they are never booked as the top heel stable, even when they do ruthless takeovers and jump people and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's usually for a short-term program, and it's never long-term. I mean, they've never had the IWGP Championship. Suzuki is always seen as a very credible. He's like the guy that's outside the top four at any given point. And I mean, he's believable and scary and all that, and they cheat a lot, but they're never at the top. And it seems like they're poising Bullet Club to be at the top. So as far as like danger goes, yeah, I would say they probably are the quote unquote most dangerous, because GBH and Taguchi Japan and Sekigun and Chaos are all kind of just morphed into one big freaking we don't know what the crap it is.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't call LIJ dangerous.
Especially if they don't watch each other's back. How can they?
Oh
be,
my god!
How can they be dangerous?
Yeah.
So some more follow up from Maserati here. He says, "How about that violent perverts trio? I love that NJPW. The more comedic wrestlers can still be threats in any match. Do you think it's possible for this new team to make these titles more important and something worth fighting for?"
Well, I'm very entertained by the MVPs. I think it will be a short-lived thing, just like most title reigns in New Japan, when it comes to the Never Six-Mans. I did see a picture someone posted where they said that the real mega powers of New Japan are Taguchi and Yano. So that's kind of hilarious. But no, I just think, as fans, we always want better. We always want more. We always want better. We always talk about, championship reigns meaning more, wins meaning more, things being booked better, this guy getting pushed this way or whatever. We always want that. But, this title is what it is, and I'm never going to expect it to be elevated beyond being a nothing title that doesn't mean anything. It's just something for guys to do, and they can headline a C show like they did here, and it kind of have a little bit of meaning. But it gets hot potatoed more than any other title in the company. There's a reason for that. So, and I don't think that putting it on Yano, Makabe, and Taguchi elevates it in any way.
You're right.
But I think it's funny and I think it's good. I was glad to see them get the win, and I think it was booked well. And I'm not complaining, but I'm also realistic about what this is. I'm not
expecting them to go on some year-long title run with multiple defenses and 4-star matches and yeah.
The greatest ever six-man tag team trio of all time. The MVPs.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some other random trio let's put together that's going to be.
But I do like that Yano and Taguchi can be comedic and then also taken seriously at the same time. I've always loved that.
Yeah, because at any time those guys could roll you up or...
Yano be rolling people up all the time.
Right,
dude.
Yano's a master of distracting the ref, getting that low blow and that schoolboy.
Remember when Taguchi pinned Kushida during Best Super Juniors in less than a minute?
Yes, with that schoolboy. Everybody was shook, yeah.
I think it was a small package, but still.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that happens, man.
Oh, man. Maserati, some more questions here. He says, going back to the previous question asked about when the Mega Aces formed, is it possible that Chaos and Taguchi Japan / GBH form a new faction? They've told a story that has had White in the BC dominating everyone, including the Mega Aces, for quite a bit now. And Chaos has been struggling, but would this merger be too much?
I feel like I don't want to talk about factions anymore. I just feel like I put so much thought and effort and intrigue into the whole Bullet Club thing last year and the whole Chaos thing last year, and it never was what I thought it could or should be. And so many people talking about Golden Elite, Golden Lovers Elite, Bullet Club, Elite, and then the OGs and all this crap and everything. We're just so perplexed. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? And it's they're going to leave. I'm just going to take it for what it is. I think that there have been reports that they're going to restructure things in New Japan with the faction alignments. We're already seeing that now. Where this is going to lead, I have no idea. But I really can't speculate on who's in what groups or anything like that. That's not even, I don't know, as a fan, it's not even something that really appeals to me.
Yeah, and as far as talking about would this merger be too much? They're pretty much kind of unofficially merged right now. These guys have been teaming together on multiple 6-man, 8-man, and 10-man tags, and with them working together, they still haven't been able to really defeat gel or defeat Bullet Club. They probably won 1 or 2 matches against the Bullet Club collectively, and it still hasn't been enough to stop Bullet Club.
It feels like Chaos doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
It feels like it's just they've just like
kind of
symbiote, or like they've used osmosis to blend back into the New Japan Army. Do I think that there could be some new factions that are formed out of this? Yes. I did see an interesting post on Reddit a few weeks back where they said every 2 years we get a new faction. And it's been about 2 years since the last new faction, which was Taguchi Japan. So we're due for another one. Prior to that, it was LIJ, and so it does seem like every 2 years there is something forming. So yeah, I think there will be something new, but to speculate who's going where and who's going to do what, I know some people like that. I'm not crapping on it. If that's what you like to do, by all means, but I don't, because I'm not. And you know why? Because I'm not good at it. I'd rather talk about fantasy matches than fantasy factions, because the factions don't really intrigue me that much. They serve their purpose. I think they're a great booking tool, and they're a great way to like understand who's aligned with who and all that. And I'm not knocking it, but I'm just never like all in on a faction, really, hardly ever, except for like maybe LIJ is freaking awesome, but that's because they're this cohesive thing,
right? And for me, I'm just kind of curious, like what's happening here,
right?
Like, I just want to know. I mean, we've kind of seen this kind of merger been happening over the past few months now, and nobody's really addressed it. Like, none of the people within the factions have really addressed it. So I'm just kind of curious what the direction is. Like, is this going to be a new Chaos, or are we going to kind of get a small little GBH faction? Or is all it's going to be Sukigun? So, I mean, I'm curious to what's going to happen. I'm kind of want to answer, but I'm sure they're going to keep kind of drawing it out.
I feel like because there's so many moving parts, it's really hard to say what will or won't happen. Mm-hmm. And I also feel like a lot of these fans who I see it on Reddit all the time, they're like, I think this guy should go here, this guy should go there, and they like build up this whole scenario, and it's like fantasy booking. Mm-hmm. And that's cool and it's great, but it usually never plays out the way you want it to play out, and then you're left kind of disappointed. They should have done this, and it was like, well, what led you to believe they were even going to do that in the first place?
Right.
I'm better at like booking championship long-term scenarios and trajectories of a singular guy or a heavyweight title scene or something like that, but I'm never good at this faction crap. Like, it's too much for me.
All right, so that's gonna bring us to the new beginning in Sapporo, February 2nd. Opened up with a rematch with Ren Narita and Yuya Uemura. Ren Narita defeated Uemura once again with the bridging belly to belly. This match was, about 3 minutes longer than their first matchup. What do you think about this one?
I liked it. I thought it was a fine, solid opening Young Lion match. I thought Narita did a really good job. I thought it was funny that the walkaway was so much longer for this bigger show.
Oh my god, it was hilarious! Like,
seeing them run.
Here's the thing: Uemura like sprinted down the ramp, right?
Yeah.
Narita, like, he kind of came out running first, and then
he slowed down.
He kind of stopped and like did like a little brisk jog to the middle of the ramp. He got to the end of the ramp, then he took off and got into the ring.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, this was fine. I saw everyone gifting the bridging belly to belly, which is just freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's a thing of beauty, man.
Would you call it a Northern Lights? I mean, technically, is that what it is? A Northern Lights suplex?
Not really, because Northern Lights usually you
hook around the waist.
Yeah, in their head. He's grabbing them straight up, belt like Kurt Angle.
You're right.
Belly to belly, popping the hips, but as he's coming over, instead of letting them go, he's holding on to them and bridging.
I remember the first time I ever saw Northern Lights that I remember was Shawn Michaels, and I thought like it was the greatest thing I'd ever. I was like, this guy's incredible. He does Northern Lights. He does a super kick. He'll mess you up with a freaking moonsault sometimes. Like
teardrop suplex.
Yeah, bro. I remember being confused as a kid because I used to play the Genesis game, and his finisher was the teardrop suplex, like on Monday Night Raw. Mm-hmm. And I was like, why is that his finisher? Why isn't he super kick them? Because I forgot that he used to use that as the finisher when that game came out. And I was, this is a couple years later, and I'm all on the Sweet Chin Music, and I'm like, this game is stupid. Why is he doing a freaking Saito? Which, basically that's what it is.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought this was, solid opening matchup here. Like we mentioned earlier, kind of like the first match a little bit better, even though it was shorter. But, pretty much shining up Narita here once again. That belly-to-belly is a thing of beauty.
The next match was Manabu Nakanishi and Toa Hanare taking on Ayato Yoshida and Shota Umino. Umino and Yoshida were unable to keep up their momentum to eating the loss here. We got to see the Toa Bottom make its rare appearance. We don't get to see that enough.
Yeah, man. Toa Bottom, Toa Hanare busted that out when he started getting some wins here.
Interesting match. 3 really hungry, guys just kind of running around Nakanishi as he just stood stationary.
Yeah, just kind of working around this guy. But yeah, nothing too crazy happened in this match. This is mainly a showcase for Shota Umino here. But besides that, nothing.
I thought Toa Hanare looked really good in this match.
Yeah, he did.
And actually, this is the match that I was mentioning, though, where I said Umino is kind of tapping into more and growing as a performer, because I've never been on the hype train for Umino the way everyone else has. I've always noticed that he's been pushed. I've always noticed that he does a few things very well. But, I thought Big Cass had a really good, fiery comeback, too, and that didn't tell you much about him. And I'm not trying to bury Umino, but I'm just saying he did a couple things very well, but everyone was like, this guy's great. And I was like, I've never seen it. I've never seen it out of him the way I was like, when I see Narita, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's incredible. But Umino's really, really coming along and showing something. And I don't know why this particular performance stood out to me, but, he just was able to tap into the drama and storytelling of it. I know, storytelling. But the storytelling of a match where I believed him as a performer in a way that I don't think I ever have up to this point.
Yeah, he had a great offense in this match. He sold well. And
it was his selling.
Yeah, he sold well, and he had intensity.
Yeah.
In this match. He really wanted, he beat a Toa Hanare team previous in the tour. He wanted to do it again. He had that confidence after that win. He looked great here. So our next matchup was Tiger Mask and Tenzan against Isuka and Taka Michinoku, and oh my gosh, this was trash.
Yeah, this match was really bad.
And they're doing this whole storyline. So Tenzan and Isuka used to be a tag team at one point, and Tenzan is trying to get Isuka to, stop being a madman and to go back to the old Isuka that was, this awesome wrestler.
So basically, Tenzan is Luke Skywalker and Isuka is Darth Vader.
Exactly, except a less epic version of that. And so you got Tenzan. He cuts a promo at the beginning of the match. Trying, hey, Isuka, come back to being normal. And then you have the match, and Isuka's retirement show is coming up soon. Kazuna Road.
Dusty old Takashi Isuka.
But yeah, man, this was not good whatsoever.
Not even a little bit. It was, bro. This is like one of the. I know we crap on Isuka matches quite often and things like that, and some Suzuki-gun tags. But I'm like ready to go negative on this.
Yeah, dude, this was.
I'm ready to go negative stars, and I don't do that almost. I never say stuff like that hardly ever. I wouldn't even go 1 star on this. It was bad. It was actively bad.
It was horrible, and then it ended in a freaking disqualification.
I was glad. I was like, please, for the love of God, hit him with the freaking Iron Claw. Let's go. This 9 minutes and 26 seconds, I'll never get back.
Yeah, Isuka, he jumped in with a chair for the DQ, and then he hit Tenzan with the Iron Glove after the bell.
I watched this match with Rich. He was chilling with me that night, and I don't think he would even remember this match because he fell asleep. And I sat there like, my God, this is so actively bad.
Yeah, dude. Watching that, dude, I was just like, what am I doing with my life right now?
Let's move on to something that was slightly more entertaining. We had the 10-man tag team match, Great Bash Heel, teaming with Toru Yano and Yoshihashi, as well as Ryusuke Taguchi. They defeated the Bullet Club team of Chase Owens, Taiji Ishimori, Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, and Yujiro Takahashi at 13 minutes and 38 seconds.
Yeah, so once again we see, Tama Tonga pulling off the good guy kind of gimmick here and, really, costing his team the match, with him, stopping guys from double teaming and trying to stop Jado from hitting people with the kendo stick here. And, another big win here for Taguchi, giving him some more momentum heading into Osaka.
Yeah, this was fine. I think the highlight of this match, just in general, was seeing good guy Tama Tonga do his thing. I guess it did a fine job, kind of adding to the junior feud between Taguchi and Ishimori, but that was about it.
And the funny thing here, with Tama Tonga, being the good guy and trying not to cheat. The good guys end up winning by cheating.
Yeah.
With Yano, the referee was distracted. He had a low blow, and then the schoolboy on Yujiro Takahashi.
Because you can't be a punk, bro. You'll get got. You'll get got in the streets.
Yeah. Toriano's like, I don't care about good guy or bad guy. I'm just trying to get this W.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get this. I'm a champion now. I'm trying to get these. I'm trying to get these wins.
I don't remember. I don't think it was this match, but there was a match on the tour that I loved where Toriano ran and did his thing where he runs to the corner and he pulls off the pad, and then he tried to hit Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga caught it, and then he ran back and retied it up.
Yeah, yes, that was hilarious.
So yeah, I'm enjoying some of those antics, but it is so weird, the whole thing with Tama and the Bullet Club. I don't know what they're doing. I don't think they know either.
Yeah.
The next match was six-man tag. We had Suzuki-gun represented by Taichi, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and El Desperado taking on the team of Tetsuya Naito, Bushi, and Shingo Takagi.
Yeah, like we mentioned all the time, LIJ, they work so great together, and this was helping build up the matches for the following show.
There's no jump start here.
Yeah, no jump start, but they did eventually kind of brawl out to the floor. Naito and Taichi going at it throughout the match. Nothing too out of the ordinary here between this match here. After the match, Desperado did unmask Bushi after the bell.
Yeah.
Miho Abe put the mask on, and Taichi posed with Naito's belt.
Just a lot of mind games. You had, Taichi being tranquilo all throughout the match. A lot of Kanemaru and Desperado using underhand tactics, attacking the mask, trying to double team Shingo, that sort of thing. So just a lot of them trying to get inside the heads of, the champions who they're going to challenge the next night, basically.
Yeah. So then that brings us to the next match. We have Minoru Suzuki taking on Sanada. He defeated Sanada in 19 minutes and 41 seconds. And, I thought this was a very good match, even though it was kind of worked at a slower kind of pace than you would expect this match to. Essentially, Suzuki kind of working on Sanada, trying to cut him off, keep him kind of grounded with submissions and striking, and then Sanada, trying to lock in his submission, the Dragon Sleeper, what's he called it?
Why do I forget? It's not the Skull's End?
Yeah, Skull End, and then at points, trying to hit the moonsault here. But eventually he got caught in the sleeper and got hit with the Gotch Power Driver. I actually like that. At the end, Suzuki kind of slipped out of the Skull End and rolled it into the choke and then hit the Gotch Power Driver. And I like that he slipped out because we always criticize Sanada with these loose kind of dragon sleepers.
I don't like it. It's not even really a dragon sleeper anymore, the way he does it. I guess when you look at it from a technical standpoint, you would say it's a dragon sleeper, but really it's a neck crank.
Yeah.
Because he's not cutting off, in a kayfabe or real sense, he's not cutting off any circulation. It's not a choke. He's literally...
It's not a choke.
It's not a choke. Oh, man. Yeah, guys, if you've never seen the 1982 match between Killer Khan and Andre the Giant, go out of your way to check that out. Yeah, you can watch it on Daily Motion. It's not on New Japan World, but I'm telling you, you got to see this match. It's freaking awesome. And Andre, little known fact about Andre is, like, if you ever go back and watch some of the vintage matches of his, I think the only guy he's maybe second to in this area is Ric Flair, where he will interact with referees and call things out to them and build a match around like the heat between him and a referee. Andre was a master of that, and like he doesn't ever get props for it. But yeah, man, like him putting Killer Khan in chokeholds and then the referee, trying to break him and Andre being like, "It's not a choke." At one point, Andre grabs the referee and puts him. He's like, "See, this is what I was doing," and like he's killing this referee. It's awesome. But the skull end is not a choke. It's literally him just cranking on the end of their head and cranking the neck back.
Yeah.
But they sell it, and everyone acts like it's a choke or a dragon sleeper. Yeah. It's not. But yeah. This is the second meeting between these guys. They had one match during the 2017 G1 Climax where Suzuki took away the win early in the tournament. I thought that this match was my match of the night. Maybe even my match of the entire tour so far. That's not to say that this was blow away or anything like that. I thought it was very, very good. Actually, no, I don't know.
Would you put this over the Tanahashi Kushida?
Yeah, I misspoke. No, I wouldn't actually. But it's in the same range.
Yeah.
I think I went 3 3/4 on this, but yeah, I mean Sonata trying so many times to get the Paradise Lock and then finally getting it. And then,
that was a big moment, and Milano was so happy, gave him the big thumbs up from commentary.
And Suzuki being so pissed from there, you knew he was going to kill Sonata. What I really liked was Suzuki's striking exchanges in this match. I mean, he always has fantastic strikes, but when he goes into that other mode and he just starts like spouting off the strikes, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and like
almost like he's freaking E Honda from Street Fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I love it. I mean, I've been a fan of Suzuki since the Pancrase days, and I mean, I'm still. I know that we see an MMA centric offense from him and stuff, but I love it when he really taps back into those roots. So seeing him do that stuff to Sonata was awesome. I thought that the early parts of this match were slower. It was fine, but where this match at the end when it picked up, it got good, and the end of the match was really, really, really good. And they kept teasing the Gotch, and every time Sonata got out, he got hope spots, and you kind of believed. When he went for the moonsault and Suzuki at the last second got his knees up, I was like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was very, very, very good. And I should be sitting. Sonata's awesome. Like Sonata has all the talent in the world. We say it all the time, but like in 2019, I should be like exclaiming about how Sonata made this match and Sonata like blew Suzuki away, but
it's Suzuki, man.
It's Suzuki, bro.
Suzuki Ichiban.
Suzuki. We complain about like the New Japan dads, right? We complain about like and I've gotten flack for that, but I complain about like Nakanishi and Tenzan. Bro, they're like from like 2 generations after Suzuki. This dude like debuted in 88 when I was born. We're talking 30 years, and he moves and wrestles like he's one of the top guys, and I mean he's old. I mean he's old as hell. So I like this. I thought it was very good.
So next we had Evil taking on Zack Sabre Jr.
And then Chris Jericho came out. He attacked Evil.
No, that was King of Pro Wrestling.
Oh, I watched the wrong match then.
So this was a rematch of what was supposed to happen at King of Pro Wrestling. No interference from the Alpha here. We finally got the one-on-one match here. Evil finally defeating Zack Sabre Jr.
I was surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to happen at some point. I was thinking they were going to save it for the tag match, but I guess they wanted to give Evil kind of the big one-on-one win. And to me, this match was not that great. This match had I
wasn't high on it.
Yeah, this match had a slower pace than the Suzuki and Sonata match. And, I don't know. I guess with Sabre and Evil, Sabre is really awesome at what he does. But sometimes if he doesn't have the right opponent, it doesn't make for the most exciting matchup. And with Evil was not the right opponent for the Sabre style of match here.
I was very excited for this match based off of the prior build that we'd gotten, coming out of the G1. That's when that stuff was all kind of popping off, right? G1.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, it seemed like that was around the time when we started getting the multi-man matches and, the road to King of Pro Wrestling, and, it didn't matter what happened. Zack Sabre had his number every time they wrestled in multi-man matches. And, then the whole thing happened with Jericho at King of Pro Wrestling. Was that King of Pro Wrestling?
Yes.
Yeah. So when they finally announced this match, I was very excited because we've been waiting a long time for it to happen. But without that build and anticipation, I never would have been excited for this because I've never thought to myself, what would be freaking awesome? Evil and ZSJ. Like,
yeah.
And you know what? I got to be honest with you. I'm not the biggest supporter of Evil. I think he has his place in the company. I think that he has a good character and he's a good power guy, but I'm never really that intrigued by him. I don't see him in the same caliber as like an Elgin or Jeff Cobb or anything of that nature. I just think he happens to be aligned with the most popular group in the company. I know a lot of people love Evil. I know they do. I don't. And it's because of performances like this that we get pretty regular from him,
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I love Evil, but I like Evil. I think with the right opponent, he can have good matches, but Sabre is just not the right guy for him to wrestle.
For me, and I don't want to turn this into like a burial for Evil because I think Evil is good. And I'm not saying Evil's bad, but there are guys that he doesn't. There are times where you think he's going to perform to a certain level and he doesn't. And then there's other times where he's surprising and you're like, whoa, where'd that come from, But this was a big opportunity for him, and I don't think he lived up to it. And I don't think it was all his fault either. Don't get me wrong. Zack Sabre, we praise him all the time, and when the crows come to roost and someone isn't performing well, you got to kind of throw that out there. And I didn't think that Zack was great in this match either. He did a lot of the stuff that he does, but he did it in the way that we kind of criticize, where it's like, a lot of these like submissions into transitions for the sake of just transitioning, but there's no there's no story or method behind it. I don't think Evil did a good job selling it. It was very slow, very boring, and it seemed like Zack, if you're going to get him out of there, get him out of there. I didn't buy into the hope spots, and then they try to do the whole like Evil battering, ZSJ thing, and ZSJ like selling and crumbling, but that didn't seem to connect or resonate with me either. For whatever reason, they just didn't seem to gel or have good chemistry to me. And you know what? Maybe I'm off base because I saw a lot of people that thought that this is match of the night. There's a lot of people that dug this. But for me, I don't know why, it just missed the mark. I never got into this match. And it went way too long in my opinion.
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled with this match at all. I thought the Sonata Suzuki match was better. This went way too long, and these guys just didn't, like you mentioned, they sit in jail, didn't have great chemistry.
They tried to do like an epic.
They did. They tried to do that epic, like New Japan, the main event, 20 to 30 minutes.
And it never felt like that to me.
They went to the ramp, and Evil hit that the Fisherman Buster on Sabre on the ramp.
That was pretty nice. That was cool. That was cool.
That was like the high spot in the match, and then there was something really that exciting afterwards.
I was very surprised at the end when he ended up catching Sabre with the everything is evil and getting him out of there.
Mm-hmm.
That just I know that you thought that was going to happen, but I didn't, because I felt like you saved that for the match the next night, sort of thing.
I predicted that it was going to happen in the tag match, but I wasn't surprised that it happened in the one-on-one match, just because I know how New Japan views Evil, and eventually he needed to get a one-on-one victory back over Sabre.
I agree with that, but I'm so accustomed to Gato doing this thing where, kind of like what he'd already done, where he was losing, and then they set up the big match, and you think it's his comeuppance, and then nope, you're gonna eat another loss. That's what I expected, but we've talked about it before. They are high on Evil. I think it's funny because so many people take us to, not so many people, but people have criticized me for being like, New Japan's high on Jay White, right? And being like, they're going with him. Can't you see it? They're going with him. And people being that stupid, he can't deliver, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, but I think you compare him to Evil, who they're also kind of going with, and it's night and day. I mean, like,
yeah, Jay White blows Evil out of the water.
Right, and Jay White isn't anywhere close to being the top guy, like top in-ring performer. I wouldn't even put him in the top 10 in the company. And so, like, my fear is, like, they're going to really push Evil, and, like, I don't think he has it. I really don't. I think he's a good guy to have on the roster. I think he's got his role. But they've tried they've done main events with him. You know, he had those matches with Kenny Omega, the match with Okada. And it seems like, you know, come G1 season, I wouldn't be surprised for him to have with a lot of the guys leaving, he's probably going to be prominent. Him beating Zack Sabre, I'm sure they're going to run it back at some point this year.
Yeah.
And I'm just, I'm not criticizing the booking decision. I was surprised by it, but I'm not criticizing it. It's fine. It's, you know, that makes sense. I'm more criticizing, like, I wouldn't go with Evil.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But he does, you know, his character work is good and all that, so he's a good promo.
And that brings us to the main event of night 1 with Switchblade Jay White and the Rogue General Bad Luck Fale defeating the Mega Aces Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuchika Okada.
Kind of seemed like they were trying to build all of night 1 off of, like, kind of just this match, really. Like,
yeah,
you know. And I don't know, man. What did you think of this?
You know, I wasn't really thrilled this match. I don't know what it was, but I don't feel like, once again, I kind of feel like these guys were kind of holding back, trying to save, going all out for Osaka. You know, Bad Luck Fale didn't really look great in this match at all. Just kind of bumbling around. Yeah.
I thought the beginning where Jay White came out and demanded that the press take pictures of the real Dream Team.
Yeah.
That was really funny. You know, and then Tanahashi and White, I thought that Jay White and Tanahashi worked well together. Everything was fine, but I'll be honest, I'm going to go a step further. I don't think it's just that Fale didn't look good at all. I think he looked very bad. Very, 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 very bad, to a point where, and maybe do you think I'm being too critical and saying, like, it was a little bit, like, it's an embarrassment at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I just, a lot of these multi-man Fale matches, I'm not impressed. And
dude, he's not trying anymore.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like, what value does Bad Luck Fale truly bring to the roster, to the Bullet Club? It's like, you can find somebody that's as tall as him, as big as him, that's more athletic, and that's more motivated, and that's going to try. You know, this is a guy that's going out here wearing shirts that say "Pin me and pay me."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think the thing with him is, like, yeah, obviously Fale, from all reports, is a good guy in the industry. People like him. He's got a prominent role. He's got a very important role to play when it comes to the oceanic, you know, connection with Australia and his dojo and all that, and I commend him for all that. And in the past, Fale's been a guy that you can kind of depend on to do what big men do when needed and when called upon and necessary. Those days seem to be gone for whatever reason. I thought him losing all this weight and kind of getting remotivated would bring back some of the... And he's never been a world beater, so I'm not, like, trying to hype him up and say, like, he was ever Big Van Vader or anything like that. No.
Right.
But it's to a point now, and, like, some people probably think I'm being too harsh, but, like, sometimes I feel like you have to be harsh on some of these guys. And, like, this is the main event of a B show, and I know that he's there to, like, take the pinfall or whatever, but he looked bad, man. He looked really bad, and he looked lazy, like he's not trying at all anymore. Yeah. And that sucks when you're trying to get over Jay White, when you're trying to, you know, get over Okada and the Mega Aces. One of these guys doesn't look like the rest, and it was very, very apparent, and I thought it really hurt this match. I mean, I thought that this match could have been something really good.
Right.
And
this match should have been...
it was,
with Okada and Tanahashi teaming up in just a tag match like this, should have been a more special moment. This should have been an epic match. Like, this match should have been like, obviously maybe not to the level of, like, the Omega, the Golden Lovers against Tanahashi and Ospreay, but it should have been treated special, almost like that match was. You know what I'm saying?
It's not that from a booking standpoint they put the wrong guy in there. They put the right guy in there, but he didn't try that night.
Yeah.
And given the kind of performance they put, I would say it's about 3.5, maybe lower, which is fine. But it's the main event of, a New Beginning tour show. If you had put this if this was the fourth match on the night, I would have been fine with it. That's the kind of performance and kind of hype and feel it had. I think they've done a lot of things on this tour to do good things to build towards Tanahashi and Jay White, but this match didn't seem to fit into that at all. I think that someone needs to talk to Bad Luck Fale at this point and either let him fill out his role that his backstage role, give him his job. Maybe he can be like a bodyguard in the Bullet Club. But if he's going to put in performances like this going forward, then there's no point in him performing.
Yeah.
So he's not up to the working standard.
Yeah, but the big story of this match, though, was Jay White submitting Tanahashi with an inverted figure four, which he's calling the TTO.
Oh, yeah.
Tanahashi taps out. They hit Tanahashi with a chair in the knee. He locked in the inverted figure four, and Fale and Gedo kept Okada outside, which allowed Jay White to get Tanahashi to tap.
Yeah, the few times where he's attacked this knee, it's been so freaking vicious. People talking about now that's one thing I will say. Tanahashi, whether it's a sell or not, I think it's partly a sell. The way he's selling his knee is incredible. It's full circle. We're back to a year ago at New Beginning when he was the IC champion.
And Suzuki wrecked his knee, yeah. Yep.
It feels a lot like that again. And he's doing an incredible job selling the knee on this tour. I love this finisher, this new submission hold. I like it a lot. My big question, though, and this is what I think everyone's wondering, if you turn that over, does it reverse the pressure onto Jay White?
Tanahashi should try that in the Osaka match. But yeah, clearly, the bullseye is going to be on Tanahashi's knee going forward. They did a great job here. This big win here helps solidify Jay White as a title contender, and he has the submission victory over the current champion. So he's looking real strong going into Osaka. And we have a question here from Dom Homie 101. What are the pros and cons of Switchblade winning at New Beginning in Osaka?
That's a loaded question. Okay. Well, maybe we should go back and forth a little bit on this. So,
Okay.
what do you think is a pro of him winning?
So I think a pro of him winning is you get somebody new, somebody fresh as the IWGP champion, which could lead to new matches and new rivalries.
That's true. I also think that it could help, hypothetically, not to take attention off this matchup or off Jay White, but he could serve in a transitional role to put the title on someone that maybe the fans want to see win it, like a Naito or like an Okada. Mm-hmm. That is one thing that's there. What's a con?
Con, if he wins the title here, he's probably not losing it before MSG, and we'll have to see him and MSG as a champion, and I want to see Tanahashi versus Okada.
So you would be... Do you feel like the Madison Square Garden show would be less appealing with Jay White as the IWGP champion?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, there's been so much talk of wanting to bring the authentic New Japan experience to America, and doing a big match like Tanahashi Okada. I think if they want to make that show like a standout show that weekend, they need a match the caliber of Tanahashi and Okada. And I think Jay White is a very good wrestler, but he is still developing and has not reached that level to where he's having these epic main events. And I feel like Madison Square Garden needs an epic main event.
Yeah, so I would say one pro not just new matchups or anything like that, but I feel like you have the ability, if he wins, then you have established a new guy pretty much forever. Like that's his coronation. He's here. Like you've taken a guy in 1 year and made a big star out of him, a big star, which translates to money, which translates to marketability, and that would be a job well done to him, a job well done to Gato. So I think that's an awesome pro. The con is I don't know if he's ready for it, because I don't know if he is up to the working standard that we become accustomed to for main event level guys. And I know that sounds contradictory to things I've said about how I think he's a great wrestler. I think he is. Mm-hmm. But he's not the caliber of a Kenny Omega or a Kota Ibushi or
Tanahashi
or
Okada
or Ishii or Will Ospreay or any number of Naito, any number of guys. Now, he might get there, but I don't know if in February of 2019 he's ready to carry the company yet.
Right.
And I don't know if fans are ready to accept him in that role, because he's at a certain level and he hasn't shown the ability to get to the next level, even with Okada in the Dome, basically.
Right.
So that could hypothetically be a con. Now, it could also be a pro if he delivers, if on that level he delivers. But any other pros or cons you can think of? Do you think it could be a con for the fan base? Do you think it could turn people off from New Japan?
Yeah, I think it definitely could. It could, because a lot of people are not bought in on Jay White, especially after this past year's Wrestle Kingdom, when they didn't get like the 30-minute Okada epic, and they're blaming it on Jay White. With Jay White winning the belt here, that can totally turn off Westerners and stop them from watching the product.
That's true. But maybe Tanahashi makes him, man. Maybe he does.
Yeah, he could, yeah.
So it's hard to say yet. That's the way I see it. I mean, it could go one of two ways, obviously, but those are the pros and the cons.
Well, so that's night one. Let's jump over to night two here.
I do want to say, too, Kevin Kelly and Andy Simmons, who did the commentary on these two nights, I thought were a very good team. I kind of see more what people were talking about with Andy Simmons being a welcome addition. I think he has become more comfortable in the role now that he's had a few appearances, and I thought he was great.
Yeah, he was good.
Did you see Yota Tsuji fall?
Yes, I did. So, yes, the opening match here was Toa Hanare defeating Yota Tsuji, and Tsuji came out first, and, as Young Lions do, they bolt down to the ring. And we mentioned earlier this was a longer ramp. It also had like a little dip to it.
Like two dips.
And Tsuji, he tripped on the way down, and he tried to sell it, like look at the ramp, like something like grabbed him or something. But yeah, not a good luck for Tsuji here.
I think that I had high anticipations for this match. I don't have anything to complain about, but I think that we set ourselves up for some high expectations. We were like, strong style fight of the year contender. This definitely wasn't that, but I thought it was a very good match for both guys, 3 stars, and I thought, Tsuji looked very, full of fire, full of fighting spirit in a losing effort, and Hanare looked great. I thought it was good, really good match.
It was a great win for Hanare. We see the Toa bottom once again, and Hanare picks up some momentum.
The next match, Ayato Yoshida and Shota Umino taking on Manabu Nakanishi and Tiger Mask. And, I think Tiger Mask from this point on should do nothing but wrestle Young Lions, because he's just freaking awesome, slaughtering them.
We got grumpy, mean Tiger Mask, and just seems to be so pissed off at these Young Lions all the time, and he just goes in there and wrecks them with strikes and submissions and just goes like all out on these guys.
And this was fine. Nothing special. The highlight was Tiger Mask beating up Young Lions, which is always great. Mm-hmm. I didn't think that this was as good as the tag match they had the night before by any means.
Yeah.
Probably like 2 3/4 here. But this is fine.
Yeah, Tiger Mask got the win with the butterfly suplex off the top rope.
And then the next match we had Takashi Iisuka and Taka Michinoku from Suzuki-gun taking on Hiroyoshi Tenzan and Ren Narita. Was this a rematch of the night before? Same teams?
No, I believe the partner was different.
I'm trying to remember who Tenzan teamed with the night before.
The night before, Tenzan teamed with Tiger Mask.
That's right. Okay.
So here he's teaming with Narita, and once again...
This was not as bad, but it was still pretty bad.
Still pretty bad. Ends in a disqualification again, and we're still seeing the whole storyline of Tenzan trying to get Iisuka to go back to being normal and stop being crazy man, and that just pissed Iisuka off and led us to this horrible match where Iisuka gets disqualified once again by using the iron fingers on Tenzan.
One of these days I'm going to make you watch an Iisuka match where he's actually awesome and you're going to be like, what the crap?
Is the free match of the week, would that be one of them?
No.
Okay. So moving on.
My highly recommended match of Iisuka's would be the match from 1991 that he had with Owen Hart from Tri-State Wrestling, Joel Gearhart's precursor to ECW. Mm-hmm. That match is really, really good. Also, you can on the WWE Network, they got a match with him and Fujinami taking on the Steiner brothers when he's like pretty much a young lion, and it's kind of funny because he's wearing like pink trunks, and they are just Steiner brothers drop him on his head like 8 times. Like they just kill him.
Damn, I'll have to check that out. So next we got Togi Makabe, Ryusuke Taguchi, Tomioka Hanma, and Toru Yano taking on the team of G.O.D., Taiji Ishimori, and Yujiro Takahashi. The most violent perverts / Great Bash heel defeated the Bullet Club team here. And again, we get more Tama Tonga trying to be a good guy and refusing to cheat and trying to wrestle clean.
One of the only problems I have is when you do a tour like this and you give away a big title match, and obviously that title match, we kind of praised it for building up other matches on the tour, but when you keep doing night after night, you get a lot of the same matchups and a lot of the same spots and a lot of the same things. So, like, yeah, we got a lot of that bad boy Tamatonga or the good guy Tamatonga stuff, but it's like the same stuff we've been seeing every night. So it's like the same thing basically.
Yeah. And so, once again, got a nice little preview of Taguchi and Ishimori for their title match coming up in Osaka. Yeah, I mean, nothing really else more happened in this match here.
The next match after that, we had Bullet Club, Jay White, Bad Luck Fale, and Chase Owens taking on Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Yoshihashi.
Yeah, I mean, this match was, again, just kind of, it was there, it was fine, like, nothing out of the ordinary here. Just continuing to build up heat for the Okada Bad Luck Fale match and the Jay White Tanahashi matches that are happening in Osaka.
It was interesting how, like, I think we all anticipated that Fale was going to be a pin eater, and then we got the TTO. And then going into this match, you know, you've got the pin eaters here, but, like, the doubt is kind of created there in the fact that Jay White had cleanly beaten, you know, Tanahashi just the night before. And you're kind of, you're like, are Chase and Yoshihashi there to eat falls, or are they not, you know?
Mm-hmm, yeah. And after the match, we had Tanahashi kind of trying to go after Jay White, but eventually got hit with the Blade Runner. And, you know, we have Jay White, you know, kind of posing with the belt again, just being an absolute dick and absolute heel.
Now, do you think they're putting Jay White over too strong, similar to the way that they had done with Taichi on the tour? And are they telegraphing the fact that he's not going to win based on all that? Or are they doing what they did with him and Okada?
Honestly, like, I think they might be trying to do what they did with him and Okada, because, you know, for that match, while I said, I was like, man, I feel like he's getting too much momentum. Okada has to win at Wrestle Kingdom, but he ends up beating Okada, and that could very well be the same scenario here, where he's getting all this momentum because he's just going to straight up beat Tanahashi and Osaka.
So then, post-match, Gato slapped down Tanahashi before White kicked away Tana's leg, leading to a Blade Runner, and him just kind of like doing the cutthroat poses and just looking super dominant over Tanahashi. The match after that, we got the first title match of the night, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title holders, Bushi and Shingo Takagi defend against El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. And the build to this mask has all really been a lot about the masks. With Bushi losing his mask, the show before this, and what did you think here?
So I thought it was an alright match. I mean, it kind of started off slow. They worked a nice steady pace throughout the match. I feel like this match was really, once again, mainly about building up Shingo. There was a point here where Shingo was doing kind of a lot of selling, being beaten down by Kanemaru, and Desperado had a great comeback. And then towards the end of the match, it was pretty much Shingo going off, facing off with Kanemaru and trying to come back from a knee injury and really trying to fight back against Kanemaru until Desperado could finally get in there, and they hit the resistance. I believe is that what it's called, the resistance or double team move.
I don't know.
And get the win.
I like this match a lot. I went 4 stars on it. And I thought that it was probably depending on your tastes, because we're going to talk about a pretty controversial match here at the end.
Yeah.
But depending on your taste, this might have been for me the match of the night. I thought that, it's funny because we always talk about how good Desperado is, and we kind of always downplay Kanemaru, but
Kanemaru, he was really good in this match.
Kanemaru was really good in this match. He's been good on this tour. I don't think Kanemaru's got the juice or anything like that, but every now and again, he just pulls out some really cool crap, and you're like, oh, okay, Kanemaru, I see you.
Yeah.
And, it goes to fear. I mean, he's a longtime veteran. He, was the most decorated junior in Noah history. I mean, the guy's been around the block, and he's good. I think my problem with Desperado and Kanemaru have always been, the lazy and the tropes.
The brawling and the cheating.
Yeah, and all that. And there was quite a bit of that in this match, but I really liked seeing them go at it with Shingo, and Shingo just looking like a total dominant juggernaut, we're getting, kind of like how Shingo was just a bully in Dragon Gate. Having him in the junior division in New Japan's kind of a similar thing, and I mean, he's just out here wrecking people.
Yeah.
I thought all 4 guys did a good job, include even Bushi, who hardly ever does anything. I also really appreciate that this was a straight up tag team match. We didn't have to have 6 guys in the ring, and I feel like this came off way better than most of those 3-way tags. But I think that this all really came down to Desperado and his mask at the end, basically.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of emphasis on, like you mentioned, with Desperado and Bushi's mask, and towards the end, Kanemaru tried using Satori whiskey, but Bushi used a chair to protect it, and then he get the mist on Kanemaru, and then they were able to hit the Rebellion, and then post-match, Bushi pulled off Desperado's mask and threw it out in the crowd.
Yep, and they didn't get disqualified over it. They waited till after the match was over.
Yeah.
So I think all 4 guys put in a good performance here.
And we have a question here from Wilfred from the Wilfred Watches podcast right here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. He says, my thought, Despy loses his mask to Bushi and goes on an IWGP Junior title run. What do you guys say?
I think that's a scenario that I kind of had laid out earlier on the show, and I could definitely see that happening. I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, like we mentioned earlier, we kind of talked about it earlier, but yeah, it's definitely a possibility, especially with, not that many kind of junior stars there. Like Desperado is somebody you could heat up and, like we mentioned earlier, use the losing of the mask to kind of catapult him into main event picture in the junior division.
I do wonder if he would go back to his real name, Kiyosuke Mikami, or if he would just stay El Desperado. That's a question I don't really have an answer to. I don't know if he goes on an IWGP Junior run. He doesn't have to lose the mask to go on that run. But of the two guys, for whatever reason, I feel like Desperado is the more likely guy to lose the mask because I feel like he's got more to offer. Bushi has nothing else. Bushi is all glitz and glamour and he's all sizzle no steak.
Yeah.
He loses that mask and he's a jag. So yeah.
Yeah. So the following match we had Evil and Sonata defeating Minoru Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr. to retain the IWGP Tag Team titles. What do you think about this one?
I thought that this was pretty good. I think it slightly under-delivered to what my expectations might have been. I was hoping for just something to be higher caliber. I'm not really complaining, but I feel like that's kind of the story of this entire tour so far.
Yeah, honestly, this whole kind of tour has just kind of been just kind of been there.
Yeah.
There was a few little nuggets a few little highlights, but I mean, overall, the matches that you expected to deliver a little bit higher quality kind of fell flat.
Like, I'm not going to turn around after this tour is over and then come award season and say that any of these were show of the year candidates.
Yeah.
None of these shows really stood out to me as being blowaway.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see any show of the year candidates, and I don't think there's going to be any match of the year candidates off of this tour at all.
No, not even close. I mean, potentially with the New Beginning in Osaka.
Yeah.
That's a possibility that we still got that going. But if you compare this to last year's tour, we had several really great matches, and on this one we've had a lot of good matches. I mean, it's not like it's been bad wrestling, but I mean, I was expecting Sabre and Suzuki against LIJ to be like a blowaway match. It would have been my pick for match of the night, and I mean, I thought it was fine, and I thought it was good. They told a good story, but this didn't really catch me like that.
Yeah, I was expecting this match to be a little bit better than what it was. Like we said, it was still a good tag team match here, with LIJ getting the win.
I did like the interactions between Sonata and Zack Sabre, though. Kind of calling back to the match they had at the G1 this past year, giving me a lot of like World of Sport vibes, so I kind of appreciate that. What did you think about it being Suzuki who ate the pinfall and not Zack Sabre?
I thought that was very interesting, and I guess that that kind of shows you how much they kind of value Zack Sabre and kind of see what they have in him. 2018 was a great year for Sabre and the way they pushed him, and they definitely want to keep pushing him going into 2019. And he already ate that loss to Evil, and Suzuki was the one that won against Sonata, so kind of giving Suzuki that L there, and then kind of protecting Sabre a little bit from taking 2 pinfalls.
Yeah, I think that's the main point. They don't want Zack Sabre to take pinfalls 2 nights in a row, so that's why they did it with Suzuki. But I think it's a very telling thing. Very, very telling that that's the way they did it.
Yeah.
So then that's going to lead us to our main event for the IWGP Intercontinental title. You had the Lord Taichi challenging against Tetsuya Naito.
Yeah, and so Naito is making his way to the ring for the main event, and Iizuka comes out of nowhere, jump zone, hits him with a ladder, and he's choking him. All the young boys are trying to get him off, and Iizuka's destroying the young boys. No LIJ in sight. Apparently, like there's just no monitors backstage in New Japan, or these guys already went to the shower, or they already left, or whatever. But no LIJ in sight. Then Taichi comes out to the ramp. He hits the Black Mephisto, which is an air raid crash on Naito on the ramp. Got personnel checking on Naito.
So this was very interesting because prior to the match, Taichi had been talking about how this date was significant in that city, Sapporo, which also happens to be Taichi's hometown.
Yeah. And
that anything could happen. I'm kind of paraphrasing. So then to have Iizuka come out and attack Naito, they basically were doing a homage, if you would, to an event that took place years and years prior. It's famously referred to as the Sapporo terrorist incident, where there was a famous match where Fujinami and Choshi were supposed to wrestle. I believe it was in '84. on the same date, where they had just come off their long series of matches from the end of '82 all the way through '83, and prior to the match starting, Yoshiaki Fujiwara comes out and attacks Riki Choshu. The match never ends up happening, and it very similar to the way that that Osaka attacked Naito, and that was a very that's a very well known New Japan historical event. It's kind of what put Fujinami on the map. The fact that he's not in the Observer Hall of Fame is crazy to me, but that's what set up Fujiwara as being this top shooter and top, basically that sent him to the UWF down the road, and PWF or PWFG and all that sort of stuff. So I think also the allusion to the fact that maybe this match wouldn't get started because it's calling back to something where a match didn't get started.
Yeah, Taichi got on the microphone and he's told everyone to go home because the match was over. There's no main event, and the trainers and staff carried Naito off to the back.
How does that make sense from a kayfabe standpoint if you want to win the title?
It doesn't. It's dumb. It would go to a no contest, and Naito would retain the title. And so at this point, the show was at a halt. Taichi wandered around the ringside, and he got into a little confrontation with Makabe and Milano Collection or not Milano. What's his face? Who's the other guy at commentary? The guy that lifts the shades.
Chono?
Yeah, Chono. Yeah, he got in a conversation with Chono and Makabe, and he was just telling fans to go home. And then we had the trainer and.
I think they did this too long.
Yeah, it was way too long.
It was 10 or 12 minutes long.
Yeah, the trainer and the New Japan chairman Tsukubayashi came out and were contemplating on what to do, and then Naito came back out with Bushi and got back in the ring and said he wanted to continue the match.
At least it wasn't Harold Mai.
Yeah, throwing himself in the storyline there. And then the bell rang and the match started. But yeah, that whole opening segment was way, way too long and drug out too long and just.
Do you remember when they did something not exactly like this? But do you remember at Hell in a Cell a few years ago when they had Sasha Banks and Charlotte jump zoned Sasha, and it took forever before the match started?
Yeah,
that kind of reminded me here, and I actually enjoyed the the pre-match jumping and all that. And I also appreciated them carting him off, but this whole thing with Taichi at ringside for 10 to 12 minutes, that was way too long.
Yeah.
Now, it did serve a purpose because when Naito came back, he's doing this epic sell job, and the crowd is so into this at this point.
Yeah, crowd's firmly behind Naito, and anytime he had any hope of coming back, they were solidly behind him. But then Taichi would kind of cut him off. Then we had a crazy spot here where Taichi had pulled out a table, and he was looking to do the Black Mephisto from the apron to the table, but ended up with Naito giving him a pile driver through table.
Yeah, that was awesome. There was a lot of stuff here too with basically Naito just working from underneath the whole time. Very different from the matches that they'd done in the past at the Produce Show or at the anniversary last year. And it really did create an atmosphere and a feeling like that Taichi could basically do what we had kind of talked about and steal the belt from Naito, essentially.
Yeah. And so towards the end of the match here, we had Iska coming back out in with a chair and laid Naito out, and Taichi did a nasty headshot to Naito with the chair. Chair broke apart, and then he grabbed the IC belt and he went to hit Naito, but Naito dodged it. And Naito picked the belt up, but instead of using the belt, he put it to the side and he grabbed Taichi's microphone and laid Taichi out with that. Excuse me. And then Taichi begged him not to do it again, but Naito did it anyway. He went to hit him a third time, but then Taichi grabbed a chair and struck him with it. So yeah, this is where the nasty chair shot came to Naito's head. Raichu's coming back in. Taichi hits a Saito suplex, then he goes for Black Mephisto. But Naito had an awesome counter here with a spike Hurricane Rana. Taichi eventually cuts him off, hits a super kick. Naito shoves the referee. Low blows Taichi, hits a Destino. Taichi kicks out. Naito goes for another Destino, but Taichi blocks him, goes for Black Mephisto again. Naito reverses it again into another reverse Rana, hits a big brain buster, and then the Destino for the win.
Yep, and Taichi tried everything that he possibly could, just like he has in previous outings with Naito. He tried every single thing he could, jumping him before the bell, using weapons, using distraction, every big move that he knew how to do, changing the pace, controlling the tempo, everything. But in the end, Naito outlasted him and, basically pushed Taichi probably out of this title picture entirely.
Yeah. I have a hard time seeing Taichi getting another shot after this.
Now, my whole thing with this is the opening, angle was very good. The intermittent time between them starting the match and them, waiting was way too long I don't think it even did a good job drawing heat. I just think people were quiet and it just was weird and long.
It was just awkward. Is the show over or not? Do we really need to go home? Because we'll leave.
Yeah.
Just tell us. Is it over or not?
But then Naito comes out and the crowd is going crazy, and you kind of have to wonder, would they've gotten that payoff if they had done it sooner? I don't know, but I feel like there's a final. I just feel like they did wait a little too long, but maybe I'm wrong on that because the crowd was so hyped after that. But then Naito basically Taichi still worked this gimmicky, slow-paced, heel work, and here's my whole thing. I appreciate a heel being a heel. I appreciate a guy being hated and actually, doing things where you don't like them, and Taichi's great at that. But with that being said, you can be entertaining and be a bad guy. You can be entertaining and be despicable and ugly and draw heat and make people hate you while still not being boring. And I've gone to bat for Taichi many times, saying that I thought that he had more to bring to the table, but it just seems like he's going to be one of these smoke and mirror guys his whole career. Yeah. And they're resigned to that. With that being said, the crowd was so into this match all at the same time, and it was such a weird viewing. I don't even know how you rate something like this.
Yeah, I don't even know, because it did add drama to the match, the opening segment, even though it was kind of long, and they did do some crazy stuff in this match, with the pile driver through the table, the headshot with the chair. Naito's had some great reversals with the spike Ranas. So there were some great spots in this match, but overall, with the opening segment and all the cheating and Iska running out twice and all this stuff, and it's just I don't know. I have a hard time rating this thing.
I've seen everything from people being I hated it. It was, it was awful, blah, blah, blah. To some people, and this is going to sound crazy, but I have seen people say, this is an early match of the year. So, in which I don't think, I don't think it was that. I think that for the crowd that was watching it, they did a good job. For the crowd at home, in the arena.
Yeah.
For the crowd at home, it was a very strange, viewing experience.
If this is a match of the year candidate, then we're in for a rough year.
But with that being said, I think that the whole Taichi laying up goose eggs and big matches thing has held up once again. There were some things that were good here, but I didn't think this was as good as the match Taichi and Naito had the year before.
Yeah, no. And with a show that really needed a kind of a big main event,
this wasn't it.
This tour really needed a standout match, and this
kind of reminded me in some ways, not the way it was worked, but like the feeling you got afterwards. It kind of reminded me of the letdown of Naito and Suzuki.
Yeah.
Even though I had higher hopes for that than this. But I mean, the good thing out of it is, like, if you're a Taichi fan, then you'll probably be upset about this. But for those who don't like Taichi, he's probably going to be nowhere near the IC title going forward. But it does feel like this show lacked star power, and I feel like all the people who were kind of ridiculing this match and ridiculing this feud, they're probably vindicated to some degree. And I mean, I know we kind of went to bat for it and kind of gave them the benefit of the doubt, and now I kind of feel stupid about that because they didn't deliver here.
Well, one thing too is, like, they didn't let Taichi go. Like, we've seen when Taichi actually wrestles, he does seem to be like, oh man, he might have something, but
well, the finishing sequence was great.
Yeah,
the finishing sequence of this match was great. That's what makes it so weird to rate. Like, everything leading up to it's kind of sucky, and then all of a sudden, like, except for the hope spots, and then at the end it gets turned up, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's not that they didn't let Taichi go. Maybe Taichi didn't let Taichi go. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess we don't know. But I'm saying, like, what if they had just had a straight up match, like no jump zone at the beginning, straight up match, do some shenanigans in the middle of the match to get heat, and try to work more of a straight match.
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe they don't trust him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really couldn't say. Or maybe this was their booking attempt to make Taichi look as strong as possible while protecting Naito along the way.
Right.
I don't know.
So, question here from Reddit user Maserati. Why do people like Taichi? I'm glad he lost. I hope he loses forever. I guess he's a good heel because I hate him so much.
Yeah, I think that... I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, why do people like Taichi?
Dude, I have no idea. To me, the only real thing to like about Taichi is Mio Abe.
Yeah, I mean, I think the gimmick kind of is fine. Like, I like the gimmick, and, you know, people like gimmicks and stuff like that. And I feel like it's one of those ironic things to like him. But there are people that genuinely like him. I don't. I think it's a very vocal minority, and
Yeah, he has a very small cult-like following. I don't know. Maybe it's his aesthetic. Maybe it's the whole emo goth vampire thing that people dig. You know, maybe some Twilight fans like him or something like that. But yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, if he keeps like missing these big opportunities time after time, it's like, I don't know. It's gonna be hard for me to get behind him. I do think that he's funny and interesting when it comes to being on the mic in the backstage.
Oh yeah.
That's usually really good. But I mean, when it comes to bell to bell, I mean, he's not my guy. And But post match, we got Bushi, Shingo, Sonata, Evil, all finally emerging to celebrate. Clean sweep for LIJ, all 5 guys.
Just like you predicted.
Just like I predicted. But the one thing that was missing, we did not get the Hiromu appearance.
Yeah.
But that kind of blows off the end of New Beginning in Sapporo.
Yeah, question here from Reddit user FLIJ. Now that Naito is still the IC champ, how do you guys see him getting to the heavyweight championship? I think he should be allowed by the IWGP committee to wrestle in the New Japan Cup, get to the finals against Okada only to lose, and they could build the narrative that Naito can't beat Okada and have him win at Wrestle Kingdom by winning the G1.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's less likely that he... I don't think he's going to win the New Japan Cup. He could, but I don't think they're going that way. I don't think they're going to headline Madison Square Garden with him. Mm-hmm. But they could, but I don't think they will. I think that him winning the... I think he either will win the title and headline Wrestle Kingdom with the belt, or he will win the G1 and win the title at Wrestle Kingdom next year. One of those two things is how I see it.
Yeah, I feel I'm leaning towards him winning the G1 as him finding his way back into the heavyweight title picture and getting that Wrestle Kingdom match. But yeah, I don't see him. You know, I like the New Japan Cup being all non-title contenders, so I wouldn't want to see him in the New Japan Cup.
I did see people saying that maybe they should allow everyone but the IWGP champion to be in the New Japan Cup going forward, which I'm not opposed to that. He actually talked in interviews before about why don't we do that? Everyone knows they're going to challenge for the IWGP title anyways, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, he did. Now, one thing that was interesting, after the show, he specifically said that he wanted to be the first person ever to hold the IWGP and the IC champion. And, you know, they always do say that they don't allow them to say like stuff like that unless it really means something. Now, I don't know. I heard Tanahashi say the same thing last year around this time of the year. But that was in one of those – it wasn't on a show. It was one of those backstage profiles that they used to do on the New Japan World. So maybe he continues to hold the Intercontinental title and then challenges for the IWGP Championship.
Yeah, I mean, that could happen. But also, too, with these backstage promos, it's one of those things like we don't know if he's just saying stuff to say stuff or they're actually trying to plant seeds for something.
That's true, but I feel like in this case, with it being a big feud and stuff like that, I feel like that could hypothetically be a direction that maybe they gave him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we don't know. I mean, but yeah, I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. I think everything really is going to come down to what happens with Tanahashi and Jay White next week.
Yeah. So we have a question here from Reddit user DomHomie101. He wants to know what's next for Juice in the IWGP US title. Juice Robinson retained the title over Beretta this past weekend in the New Beginning in USA. Yeah, I'm not sure who's on the docket for challenging Juice next.
Yeah, he's got to get back in Japan and you know, defend the belt. I don't know. Is there anyone that you can see that it seems like they're kind of building up for a title challenge?
I mean, maybe Zack Sabre Jr.?
I don't think so. I don't know. I really don't see a challenger on the horizon based off this tour so far.
Yeah, we'll have to wait until the next tour.
He's gonna be in some tag match, and someone's either gonna come out and challenge him or pin him, and then we're gonna go from there. I don't know.
Then Reddit user Templar235. Do you think the Great O'Karn will keep his Kanoski gimmick upon returning from excursion? I dig it, but it's pretty bizarre.
I hope not. I hate the gimmick.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Great O'Karn gimmick, but I am a little bit worried since he's now officially debuted on a New Japan show with the gimmick. I'm not. I'm not, because we saw like the Tempura Boys as, you know, the Tempura Boys, and we've seen Kamatachi before. You know, a lot of times these young lions, when they're on excursion and they come back, they'll work their gimmick, but Gato generally doesn't keep those gimmicks. I mean, I can't even remember the last time someone debuted back in New Japan and was working with the same gimmick that they had outside. I'm just trying to even think of a situation where that's ever really happened. Even like Muto building his reputation as the Great Muta, he didn't come back as Muta. It took like several years for him to reemerge that persona. So no, I really don't think that he'll keep that gimmick. Plus, I don't know if that would even be. I don't know how people would take that in New Japan. Or if that would get over in the Japan audience.
I have no clue. It's probably not. I'm gonna say I'm 95% certain he doesn't keep the gimmick.
So next question comes from Reddit user Jai Bryan. Should New Japan make a big push to sign Dean Ambrose? It's been recently announced that Dean Ambrose will not be re-signing with the WWE after his contract is up in April.
I mean, I'm not even convinced that that's really going to happen, but I literally am somebody, I think it's probably real, but I am somebody who is open to the idea that this thing is a work. And I know everyone else is like very convinced it's not, but I am not completely convinced that this is not a work. With that being said, though, I mean, he's a top talent that's out there. It's just, we talked about it last week. It just is very weird, like that New Japan, when it comes to a lot of these like free agent signings and bidding wars. I mean, there's a couple guys, and we'll talk about it in the news. There's a couple guys you're hearing New Japan's name tied around, but they're being very selective, and it doesn't seem like they're going after a lot of these talent, really.
Right. Honestly, I don't even know how, if Ambrose could adapt to the New Japan style. I can't have a hard time picturing Dean Ambrose in New Japan. So I don't know if he's.
I feel like it would be something close to like Sami Callihan.
Yeah, I don't know how it would get over. I don't know if that's somebody that New Japan needs to bust out the checkbook for. So
I don't want New Japan to be like the third or fourth fiddle though. So I kind of want them to like get somebody just to get somebody.
Yeah,
like everyone else is signing everybody up, and I'm like, New Japan, you guys gonna make a play or
like who we signing?
Yeah, what you guys doing? But I mean, there's no part of me as a fan that's like, you know what I want to see? Okada and Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
Like I'm a Dean Ambrose fan, and I think that there have been times where he's had great stuff in New Japan, and the Jon Moxley stuff's all cool and everything.
Yeah.
But I just don't see it in New Japan.
I think he'd be better suited for American Indies.
I think he'd be better suited for like Big Japan death matches.
Another question from Dom Homie 101. Thoughts on a possible Kenta G1 run this year in the G1 Climax? We mentioned earlier, Kenta has asked for and has reportedly been granted his release from WWE. He was written off 205 Live last week, being attacked by 205 legend Arya Davari.
Did they write that?
No, I wrote it. So can Kenta show up in the G1 Climax this year?
I don't know. He's got a 90-day no compete clause. He just got out of his contract, so we're looking at 3 months. What month? We're in February, March, April, May. So he's not even going to be wrestling till June, if at all. Would there be enough name recognition, hype, and anticipation for by 1 month later him even getting into the G1? I don't see it. I really don't, to be honest with you.
Honestly, I feel like Kenta really needs to kind of rebuild himself. Like, he needs to take time off. He needs to heal up. He needs to get back into better shape. And I would go back to Noah, kind of rebuild that reputation, and then potentially kind of do what Pac did, where Pac went back to the home promotion in Dragon Gate, rebuilt the reputation, and then potentially do something outside of that. So that's what I would do with Kenta. Get motivated, get in shape, get healthy, build up a resume again in Noah, and then maybe do something in New Japan.
I think if Kenta was coming off of a successful run in WWE where his name was, elevated, then I think New Japan would be falling all over themselves to sign him up and to lock him up. But given the circumstances and the way that his run in WWE is visualized in both North America and New Japan, I don't see them really going out of their way to get him. Now, he's a guy that they could get. They could. Mm-hmm. Absolutely they could. I don't know that he goes back to Noah. Obviously, Noah has new management. They just announced there's a lot of changes that are being made in that company, and that is where he made his name. And he could. It's likely. I mean, it makes sense. It's likely he would go back there, but who knows? We could see him in All Japan. We could see him in Big Japan or Wrestle One, or maybe, I don't know. Probably not Dragon Gate, but you never know. Mm-hmm. The idea of him ever making an appearance in New Japan isn't far-fetched or out of the question, but I just don't think that he... I mean, the guy's on the downside of his prime. Mm-hmm. He's not in the best condition right now, and as much of a name as he was in Noah, even on his best days, he's never been the caliber level star that, a heavyweight in New Japan is or was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just, I would love to see it. I mean, there's a lot of guys I would love to see him go, but I want the Kenta of 2008, 2009, 2006. That's the guy that I want.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that guy still is in there or not. And the G1, I don't think he'd be ready for a G1. I mean, it's the most grueling tournament that's out there. I mean, I just don't know if he could do that.
Yeah, with all the injuries that he's had and just the shape that he's in now, like I don't think the G1 climax would be the best thing for him to do right now.
No, probably not.
Yeah. Reddit user Maserati, he says, "Where that young boy kimono at, boys?"
I try to get Jeremy to commission one. He won't do it, so you got to take it up with the boss.
Hey, Pro Wrestling Tees doesn't have kimonos, so maybe in the future we'll have that. For right now, just
who runs Pro Wrestling Tees? What's his name?
I forget. It's like Ryan.
Yeah, it's Ryan something.
Yeah.
I forgot. I gotta call him and I'll just be like, "Yo, we need these kimonos like pronto."
I think first, everybody needs to get their hands on a Keeping It Strong Style T-shirt, and then we'll work on trying to get additional products in the store.
Yo, not for nothing, the Keeping It Strong Style shirts are clean as heck.
Yeah, they're awesome. Mine is on the way in the mail right now. Should be here later this week. Looking forward to wearing that. I'm going to bust it out at the Ring of Honor TV tapings this weekend.
Nice.
So real quick, we're going to go over the Road to New Beginning show.
Before we do that, do you want to announce the Wrestler of the Month and Match of the Month for January?
Oh, yeah, totally. Wow, that totally slipped my mind. I didn't even have that on my agenda here. So, yeah, Wrestler of the Month and Match of the Month for January. Let's start with the Match of the Month. And I think it's pretty safe to say that the January match of the month was Hiroshi Tanahashi against Kenny Omega from Wrestle Kingdom 13 from the main event, the IWGP Heavyweight title match. Awesome main event. The Ace rides again, defeats Kenny. Kenny's out of the company now. So
we talked at length about this match. If you want, go ahead and check out our Wrestle Kingdom 13 review. Or it's 13 this year.
Yeah, Wrestle Kingdom 13
Wrestle
review.
Kingdom 13
and
review.
I know you guys are because the numbers are still going up on that episode. It's
still.
Yeah, the numbers are still going up. It's the most downloaded episode of Keeping It Strong Style.
I think it's the most downloaded episode of any show on our network of all time.
It is, yeah.
So that's pretty cool. But yeah, just an incredible match. Check that out if you want. But obviously, an incredible match. That's our match of the month. And then the Wrestler of the Month, without any further ado, is the Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Yeah, January was a great month for Tanahashi. He, like we mentioned, has the epic main event with Omega in the Dome. He has a great match with Kushida on this Road 2 tour. He wins multiple Wrestler of the Year MVP awards in Japan. He signs a fat new contract.
Him and Okada pick up their first tag team win together as the Mega Aces, which is monumental. But yeah, I think that him being in that marquee match with Kushida and then him having that, a match of the year contender with Kenny Omega and, everything he did in kayfabe, everything that he did in shoot life, like there wasn't a lot to go off of in January. And obviously there's a lot of guys that had great, breakout moments at Wrestle Kingdom. Mm-hmm. But I think given the whole body of work for the month, it had to be Hiroshi Tanahashi.
And let's not forget about the My Dad is a Heel Wrestler match at Fantastica Mania.
But they lost.
But yeah.
Which, by the way, if anyone gets I've actually been looking into this pretty regularly because I want to watch that movie. But they're like, once it gets released on DVD, there probably will be a sub somewhere, but or a dub, one or the other, but we need it badly, so badly.
All right, so now let's preview the Road to New Beginning show happening on February 9th, and then the New Beginning in Osaka.
I gotta tell you, this doesn't look any stronger than the shows that we've seen. I think with a lot of confidence, I could say the first 4 matches don't even really jump out at me as anything very special that are worth giving a in-depth review. I mean, we can go over them real quick, but
yeah, I wasn't planning to go in depth on this one. So first matchup we have Yota Tsuji and Tenzan taking on the team of Umino and Yoshida. We have Yoshihashi against Ren Narita. Toa Hanare and Honma against Chase Owens and Yujiro Takahashi. Then we got 6-man tag action with Bushi, Sanada, Evil taking on Desperado, Kanemaru, and Minoru Suzuki. Then we have the LIJ kind of dream team here of Shingo and Naito taking on Takamichi Nohu and Taichi. And then the main event, your favorite match, the elimination match with Taguchi, Yano, Makabe, Okada, and Tanahashi taking on the Bullet Club, Ishimori, Tangaloa, Tamatonga, Bad Luck Fale, and Switchblade Jay White.
Oh, that's the road to New Beginning.
Yes.
Do you know how confused I was? I was looking at New Beginning in Osaka because I forgot there were, and I was like, this doesn't look the same at all to what I'm seeing. So, real quick, just kind of looking at it, I'm going to just take a look here. So, yeah, I think that the Shingo and Naito against Taichi and Taka might be cool. The elimination tag match in the main event between Bullet Club and Sekigun should be pretty good. Those are like the two I would take a look at. I was actually criticizing New Beginning in Osaka.
Gotcha. Okay.
Believe it or not.
And so let's get to that card. So that opens up with Jushin Thunder Liger teaming up with Tenkozy to take on Taka, Iizuka, and Minoru. So obviously they're going to continue the Tenzan and Iizuka storyline, and I'm guessing we're going to get a big singles match with Tenzan and Iizuka at his retirement show at Kizuna Road.
Or maybe they convince him to turn, and him and Iizuka, maybe he can convince Iizuka to tag team with him.
Yeah, maybe
in his retirement match, because that's what it seems like he's trying to convince him to do. Possibly,
yeah, maybe you get Tenzan and Iizuka against
who knows,
Suzuki and Taichi or some kind of Suzuki-gun team. Then we have LIJ against Yoshida and Umino. It's just going to be a match to kind of test Yoshida and Umino. Clearly, LIJ is going to get the win there. Then we have Shingo, Bushi, and Naito against Desperado, Kanemaru, and Taichi. Expecting LIJ to get the win here since they've kind of already swept Suzuki Gun. I don't think this rivalry is going to continue after this tour. Then we have Yoshihashi, Honma against Chase Owens and Yujiro Takahashi.
And I am seeing that it says with Peter.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so I'm anticipating that she'll be there.
Then we have the Most Violent Players, Toru Yano and Togi Makabe, taking on the Gorillas of Destiny. So kind of cool to get a tag team kind of feud here that's not revolving around the tag team titles.
That's one that I'm looking forward to. I'm going to guess GOD should win here, and maybe we get some sort of payoff to this whole good guy Tamatonga thing there.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Then we have the final 3 matches of the night, which are the big matches on this of this event. We have the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship match. The challenger, Ryusuke Taguchi, taking on the champion, Taiji Ishimori. They've done a great job building up this match and making Taguchi look like a credible threat to Taiji. I'm expecting Ishimori to retain here after a great matchup.
Yeah, I think that this could hypothetically be the match of the night. Just taking a look at what we've got on the docket. I'm not saying that that's my anticipation, but it's a possibility given Ishimori and Taguchi's credentials. I anticipate Ishimori to retain here. I anticipate Ishimori to basically be the champion going into Best of Super Juniors.
Yeah, same here.
So this will be his first defense, his first victim, and it's the right guy to do it against, and I think Ishimori will look dominant here.
Then we have a special singles match between Kazuchika Okada and the Rogue General Bad Luck Fale. Okada traditionally gets a decent match out of Bad Luck Fale. Hopefully he can work his magic here one more time, and hopefully Fale can come a little bit more motivated.
I'm sure Fale is going to say something about the pants because he's been bringing it up for so long. So that's one thing. But yeah, I have no hype or anticipation for this match. Okada is one of Fale's best opponents, but I'm not hopeful at all. I mean, the only thing I can think of is Okada needs to get the win here to kind of build him up and put him back in the title picture.
Yeah, definitely. Then we have the main event of the evening, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship match. The challenger, Switchblade Jay White, going against the champion, the ace, the January Wrestler of the Month, Hiroshi Tanahashi.
How have we not talked about how bad Hiroshi Tanahashi's hair is right now?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Because I wanted to forget it. That's why.
Oh, it is so
I've literally
bad.
I blocked it out. That's why I didn't even bring it up.
It's literally like Okada pants level of bad. Like,
yeah.
The thing is like Tanahashi, one of the things that makes Tanahashi is his glorious hair, his incredible hairstylings. And he came out here with this fuck shit.
Yeah.
It's so bad. It looks so bad.
Yeah, it's rough. But yeah, so
it's like he's broken Tanahashi.
His music is remixed also.
Yeah, I guess you're right, but it's not the same. But yeah,
so who you got here?
I don't know, man. This is tough stuff. This is really hard to say.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on this one. I have good reasons in my mind why either one of these guys were winning. You know, at one point I was leaning a little bit more towards Switchblade Jay White just because it's been the same kind of thing with Okada where he's dominated Tanahashi for the majority of the build to this match. And he can just go in and, you know, Tanahashi's knee is injured. He can go in and kind of steamroll Tanahashi, snap on that TTO, and tap out Tanahashi again and get the win and be the champion. However, I really feel like they're going to do Tanahashi and Okada at Madison Square Garden. So I think I'm going to ride with the ace on this one. I'm going to go with Tanahashi retaining, and then we'll get Okada winning the New Japan Cup, and then we will get Okada and Tanahashi at MSG.
There's a part of me that thinks that if Jay White loses here, it's fine, because it would be similar to what they did with Zack Sabre Jr. last year and made him look incredibly strong leading up to his challenge of Okada, and then he loses in defeat, and he's still pretty much a made man. Obviously, Jay White is extremely strong right now, coming off the defeat of Okada in the Dome. Granted, he doesn't have a big, shiny New Japan Cup sitting beside him. And if he lost this match, then they could turn around and rehab him in the New Japan Cup and maybe even put that on him, hypothetically speaking, or have him go to a finals against, say, like an Okada, you know?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you could also say that if Jay White doesn't win here, what was the point of having him beat Okada in the Dome? What was the point of this build? You know, if they're not going to capitalize on it now, when are they ever going to do that? Because it seems like at some point in the not too near future, if they're gonna do it, they gotta go with Naito.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really where the question remains. There's a huge part of me that says I should go with Jay White, given the fact that he beat down Tanahashi so much, just like he did Okada, and then he still beat Okada, and Tanahashi looks the worse for wear, just like he did last year going into the Suzuki match. But with that being said, I really think that if they have any inkling of what the fan base is looking for, especially going into Madison Square Garden, I don't think that they should take the title off Tanahashi just yet. I think Tanahashi should drop the title in short order, but maybe not here, maybe at Madison Square Garden. What I would do is I would have Jay White win or lose. We go to New Japan Cup, and we end up with the Okada-Jay White final, a rematch of the Dome, and Okada ends up winning, and we get the Mega Aces explode, basically. That's my booking scenario.
I love it.
So I'm going to go Hiroshi Tanahashi here.
I love it. So yeah, that's the new beginning in Osaka, and this show is happening on a Monday. So potentially our recording might be pushed back. So next week's episode might be a day late, depending if we can watch this thing in time and record on Monday night. We'll kind of play it by ear and see what happens. But yeah, that's a new beginning in Osaka.
So now we're gonna bring out the news. So we discussed at length last week New Japan Pro Wrestling's visa situation for Madison Square Garden, with the government, back in operation. New Japan is feeling very confident that they will not have any issues for visas by the time Madison Square Garden's G1 Supercard show comes up, with it being several months away. So they've got people working on that, just like we talked about last week, that this was a lesson for them to learn.
Yeah.
They're learning from it, and they do not want egg on their face come April.
Yeah. Matt Sydal,
my good friend Matt
Sydal. Your good buddy, Matt Sydal, his contract with Impact Wrestling ended on January 1st, and he's getting ready to have minor knee surgery. But there have been several companies that have had interest in Mr. Sydal's services, including New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is very surprising because, he had the whole issue of being arrested in Japan for marijuana and, being released from New Japan. So it's interesting that New Japan, once again, has interest in Matt Sydal, and he's in talks with them.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it. Me and Matt Sydal are not friends, but when we say our good friend Matt Sydal, the funny story is that he does live here in Clearwater. He's one of these guys you see around locally all the time. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met in the wrestling industry. We actually had a discussion, probably about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, like right after all that stuff had happened. And yeah, it's just interesting to think now that we had a in-depth talk about what happened, what was going on with New Japan, and he did tell me at the time that he missed it greatly, and that he was basically brokenhearted that he's not over there competing. He loved it. Some of the other companies that are trying to talk to him, WWE is one of them, AEW is obviously the other.
Yeah.
That might, given his legal situation with the THC oil that he was, caught with, in the airport, he might not be able to come back to New Japan. I don't know the situation really that well. I guess, only Matt Sydal and New Japan kind of know.
Yeah.
But I would love to see him come back. He's a guy that I think would be an asset back in New
Japan.
Right.
You talk about wanting to build a junior division. That was a guy that you can build a division around.
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing is, I don't know if he wants to be seen as that kind of junior guy anymore, really, though. I think he has bigger dreams and aspirations. So it would really, I think part of what it would come down to is him talking with, management and what kind of creative direction they have for him.
Yeah.
Could we see him back in New Japan? I think it's possible, but I feel like, if you want my opinion, this feels similar to the Matt Riddle situation, where New Japan's name was out there, but they were never going to get him.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they're not getting Matt Sydal.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I don't know. Now, I will tell you this. If they get Matt Sydal and he's working for New Japan, he will be on this show. The only reason I've never had him on the show is because how are we going to talk about New Japan? He's not allowed to work there, and and he'll be sad the whole time. But if he goes back to work for New Japan, we could definitely get him on this show for sure.
Awesome.
The next news, I was waiting for you, my bad. The next news story, Minoru Suzuki making his return to Josh Barnett's Bloodsport Mania weekend. So he headlined that show last year against Matt Riddle. His return has been announced, and the anticipation and desire to go to Bloodsport has grown exponentially. I would love to see him there.
Yeah, it's lining up to be a great show. You attended Bloodsport live last year.
I love it.
I watched the Suzuki Riddle match on replay here in Strong Style Studios. Thought it was a great matchup, and I'm highly considering purchasing a ticket to Bloodsport for Mania weekend.
Kumite. Yeah, it's going to be so good. Michael Elgin returned about a week ago from his knee surgery. Elgin was injured at the end of 2018. That caused him to miss Wrestle Kingdom 13, where he was going to tag with Dave Finlay and Jeff Cobb in the Never Openweight Gauntlet match. He worked the Bruiser Brody Memorial Show this past week, so he's back in good health.
Then we have the best friends, Beretta and Chucky T.
This is big news.
Yeah, they are finishing up with New Japan. They finished up this past weekend in the Charlotte and Nashville shows. So the story here is Beretta was offered a contract with New Japan, and several sources are saying that he verbally agreed to the deal, had a little handshake deal with Gato, and Gato started making plans for him in 2019. But he didn't sign, and he and Chucky T, it seems that they have made a deal with All Elite Wrestling. Beretta was lined up for a good push, and things didn't go off well in Japan since they hold someone's spoken word in high regard. So like we mentioned earlier, he lost that U.S. title match to Juice, and Chucky T lost to David Finlay on that tour. And Lifeblood also defeated Chaos in the elimination match during that tour. So clearly doing the jobs on the way out. And, I am not surprised. I mean, Beretta and Chucky T are friends with the Bucks, and they were featured in the Being the Elite series quite often. And, the Young Bucks, they're in charge of hiring the tag teams for All Elite Wrestling. We saw them kind of get a handshake deal from Pentagon and Phoenix this past weekend in Atlanta, and so now it looks like they are bringing in the best friends to this division as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a lot of detractors and negative opinions about Trent Beretta and the way he kind of handled this thing because of the fact that he had verbally agreed but then never got around to signing those papers. And then, they're going to AEW instead. And, I mean, what are your opinions there? I mean, is this something you would fault the guy on? Do you think he should have handled it that way? Or, what do you think?
Well, here's the thing. I do think, if you say something, you let your yes be yes and your no's be no's and kind of stick to your word. But on the flip side, and we've seen this in pro wrestling for ages now, don't plan for somebody unless you have their name in paper, unless you have their John Hancock on a contract. You never know what's going to happen. And now with the landscape being similar to what it was in the 90s, where you have all these multiple promotions bidding for talent, All Elite is scooping people up. Ring of Honor is winning bidding awards out here with wrestlers and commentators.
Yep.
So, and, MLW is trying to hold on to people. Impact is trying to sign people. So you have all these companies that are trying to, get
Tampa Bay Pro.
Yeah, Dax wants to bring some top talent here to the big top. So you have all these companies, trying to get top talent here, and you're planning around a guy who's just going, verbally saying something instead of signing a contract. So Gato should have been a little bit wary. Gato and Harold should have been a little bit wary of that Beretta had not signed a deal.
I was surprised, given this news that came out, that they even had them work these U.S. shows. It was probably like a make good for the fact that they were leaving the way they were under these kind of conditions. If in fact these conditions are how it all played out, and it's coming from reputable sources, so it seems to be the case. Mm-hmm. With that being the situation, though, congratulations to Chucky T. This is a guy who's been in the industry for years and years, openly talked about retiring before, and finally getting a contract with a major company that, he can be comfortable and, have a happy life. That's awesome. Trent Beretta, we're probably going to give him the biggest push of his career to date. But, that con money, man. That con money. So,
yeah, man.
I don't know what the deal is there, but, it is unfortunate. I mean, on the one hand, I wouldn't really fault the guy, because if he was going to say, hey, I made an agreement over here, I'm going to honor that, then that's great, But at the same time, like, if an offer comes across and New Japan didn't make the effort or take the initiative to make sure that he was signed. I mean, I work in business every day. I mean, you can email somebody a contract. You can fax somebody a contract. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's not to say that Brett. I'm not saying he's in the clear. Obviously, it's business, but at the end of the day, it is business. And when it comes to the wrestling business, these guys have a They're putting their bodies on the line. They fall down for a living, for God's sake.
Right, yeah. He's making the best business decision
that he possibly can, and in the situation. So you can't really fault him for that. And if this is the best thing for him and his family, then that's great. One thing I do want to talk about, though, and I mean, we're going to talk about AEW here with Jericho in a moment, but like, they're getting like a lot of the big names that New Japan has had for years. We know that coming up on the 7th, they're having this big kickoff. We know that Kenny Omega's contract is up, so he's basically a free agent at this point.
Yeah,
in time.
And there was a great tease at the end of Being the Elite on today's episode with Kenny. So,
what do you? Oh, I didn't see it yet. What do you think is going to happen with the Kenny Omega situation, the AEW situation, and New Japan and all that right now?
Well, I think, February 7th, I think Kenny Omega is going to be one of the big names that's announced at this ticket rally gimmick they're doing. I think that the Best Friends will be announced as well, and as well as all the other rumored people that they're signing.
There's actually a name, we can't say it on the air at this point, but there is a name that we are hearing from our sources. We have sources.
Yeah, we do.
We actually do have sources, which is crazy. But our sources are telling us a name that like we can't say on the air at this point. But like, just remember this moment, because like if it happens, like we'll be able to point back and be like, oh yeah, remember when we said, yeah. I don't know if it's gonna happen on February 7th or not, but like from what we're hearing, a deal is very close to being done, and like it would be a.
Well, what we're hearing is the deal's already done.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, the deal's already done.
It's a done deal.
They're waiting for the right time to. Announce this person.
Yeah, and it's something I'm not hearing on the internet at all.
Yeah, so.
But we're hearing it from reliable people, so that's kind of crazy.
So, yeah, I mean, I think what's going to happen, also kind of based off of what Kenny was saying at the end of Being the Elite, I think, he's going to sign off All Elite Wrestling, and then he's going to try to work a deal to wrestle in New Japan.
Yeah, I obviously haven't watched Being the Elite this week before we started the show. I talked to Floyd Johnson, who, shout out to Floyd. He's one of the co-hosts of All Things Elite, the newest show on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. And we had a discussion about this, and he was like, bro, I'm 100% certain, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Kenny Omega is going to wrestle for AEW and then get the same similar deal that Jericho's going to be getting and be able to work both places. And he's probably right. I'm not discrediting that, and that sounds like what you're saying there. But I'm just telling you, if it was me, and I would never do that if I was AEW. That is a bad business move, in my opinion, for this reason. If I'm Tony Khan and I'm the Bucks and all that, and I'm signing Kenny Omega, I want exclusivity. And when it comes to exclusivity, because of who he is, because it's Kenny Omega specifically, if I try to work out a deal with New Japan and a deal can't be met, and then we have the exclusive rights to Kenny Omega, then that's a win-win. It's a win for Kenny. It's a win for AEW, because they've got this talent that nobody else can get. You can't see him anywhere else, and that's good for them, and it's good for Kenny. And Kenny, obviously, they're going to take care of Kenny. He's going to make, top guy WWE type money, maybe even better. Who knows? But then if New Japan does want him, I don't let him go and just be the one guy in AEW like Jericho who's over there. I make him the bargaining chip, and I say, if you want Kenny, you have to take the rest of us.
Yeah.
And then, because if they say no, then fine. They're in a good spot. They don't need New Japan at that point.
Right.
But if they say yes, then there's feng shui. There's everybody's working together. But if you just say, okay, you can have Kenny, sure, like New Japan might want to hypothetically work with the talent in AEW, but they've got what they really need in Kenny. I say, if I'm them, I make him a hoarded commodity. I turn him into a commodity, and I say, no, you can't have him unless you work with our company, unless we can work something. Now, I could see where they might turn it into basically they want to create goodwill. Mm-hmm. So they could maybe let Kenny go work there, so that they could open up the door for future, working relationship between the two, and that's probably what will happen. But I'm kind of ruthless when it comes to this stuff, and I would say, no, you can't have Kenny unless you work with us, basically.
Yeah.
And given the kind of talent roster that they're having, and going back to a point I was mentioning earlier, how they are getting a lot of the gaijin that are big names on the U.S. Indies and in New Japan. It almost seems like if New Japan wants to even get the guys that they've already built over the past 5 years, they're gonna eventually have to work with AEW,
right,
to get these draws that they helped build in the first place.
Yeah. So yeah, real interesting stuff. That brings us to Jericho, who is currently not signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling, but he has been in talks with Gato, and it seems that there are some ideas that both parties want to play out. AEW's contract allows Jericho to do New Japan Pro Wrestling, so now it's just a matter of them signing a new contract for 2019 for New Japan. So this could be something similar that happens with Kenny Omega.
Yeah. I think that they've talked about it quite a bit, so I think that probably will happen.
And so last couple things here. History of the Bullet Club Part 5 is up on YouTube and New Japan World. And the free match of the week is Makabe and Yano versus Tenzan and Iizuka from New Japan Brave, April 27th, 2008. And that wraps up the news. Next week, we'll be back with a review of the New Beginning in Osaka. And like I mentioned, the show might be a little bit late depending on how quickly we can watch this Osaka show since it's airing on Monday. So yeah, stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to the feed and see when the episode drops. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. I'm at Jeremy L. Donovan. You can also follow us at Social Suplex. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/Social Suplex. Also join us in the Wrestling Squared Circle group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Reddit, I am the Pro Black Guy and Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com for questions if you want to be involved with Social Suplex. Check out all the other shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show from Scotland. Our podcast dedicated to independent wrestling. Grown Men Watch This Shit, hosted by Jeremy Tate and Chris Bryan. The Wilfred Watches Podcast, the Omega Loop Podcast, and our latest edition, All Things Elite. Make sure you check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/Social Suplex. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next time here on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.